There's a guy I know with a killer show. Tune in, you can hear him on the radio. Now he's gonna leave. He says it's time to go. Thank God it's Lago. Thank God it's Lago.
Good morning, my friend. 72 degrees and cloudy. Sun should be up about 7:33. It's 6:01, and welcome to Lago in the Morning with Blake and Tyler, narrating the spring break that never ends.
If you're a student, I would imagine you are happy.
Spring break has been extended to April
14th for CCSD. Everybody's wondering what to do with their kids. You know that I got to go to work. Where do you put them?
It's tough, and it's not like you can get together with a bunch of their friends with maintaining appropriate social distancing.
Well, that's one of the things about employers understanding that the rules are going to have to be stretched here a bit, and if you've got two people in the same family working and you have children, one of them needs to stay at home.
It's tough if you're staying home with your parents. We talked about this yesterday but never got to it. The headmistress at St. James sent out a thing to do with you, some ideas of things to do with your kids. But I'm also starting to read that some of the public schools throughout the country are starting to use distance learning technology like the colleges are. So you just go online and your classes are on the interweb.
Well, how difficult is it for employers to say, okay, you can work at home from home today?
Well, a lot of it is, do you already have the infrastructure in place? Let's say you're a 50-person, I don't know, picket, law firm, office. Some sort of office. You've got to have the VPN, which is called Virtual Private Network, hardware installed in order to get in. Now, I guess a quick and dirty solution would be you could install something like Go to My PC on everyone's computer, and they could just use Go to My PC to log in remotely. But big organizations, and actually a lot of the smaller tech-savvy organizations, have VPN servers in place where you just load a piece of software on your computer at home, and it's like you're on the network at work. That's what, my daughter Amanda works at the Federal Communications Commission, and they've told everybody, don't come into the office. D.C. is one of the really hot cities right now as far as the coronavirus goes. So she is working 100% from Boulder, Colorado right now. She got the heck out of D.C.
What about all the other people that don't work in an office? Say you're
well, I mean, it's hard to do telework if you're a waiter or waitress or a hotel maid, and you're seeing huge layoffs at hotels in particular. I saw a headline, a huge number of people, the Marriott group laid off. If you're not selling the rooms, you don't need the staff there, and there's really no end in sight.
No, and a shout out to Governor Abbott issued a waiver Wednesday to allow restaurants in Texas to deliver beer, wine, and mixed drinks while their dining rooms are closed. That was pretty easy. I'd seen that done before. It's like when you go to Louisiana, you can drive through and get one of those daiquiris, like as long as you have the straw taped onto the top of it. So, well, it's legal. He won't drink. But I think that's nice that they're supporting the restaurants. People like, Water Street and Executive Surf Club, we talked to them. And, that's the only route they can go at this point.
Now, I'm not sure how well my frozen margarita is going to take out.
Well, if it's insulated, tell them to put it in a Yeti for you. Buy a Yeti to go. But, all of the restaurants we were talking to, they had the Black Sheep Bistros doing that. And some of them I saw Glow in Rockport's they're not doing the come pick it up. They're doing it a certain way. We'll deliver it to you.
Well, I mean, I don't think you get over 50 people into Glow. I mean, it's a very small restaurant.
It used to be like a boat repair, a sailboat shop. And
yeah, I went to lunch yesterday at Price's Chef, and they were still open. It was a late lunch, but they were open in cooking, and the owner, who is a friend of mine, and we were talking about how much trouble it was to get HEB. He goes, I get a Cisco truck 3 times a week. If you need anything, just let me know, and I'll order it for you.
Are your sons still working there with him?
Yep.
That's a hard-working family. I used to go over there, and then when the construction got so bad, it's like, man, I don't.
No, I made an extra effort to go over there during the construction, because those were tough times for them.
Yeah, a lot of folks, when they were doing the same thing.
And don't get me started about that construction. They took a perfectly good 4-lane road and turned it into a 2-lane road.
That was
that's the wrong direction.
Today's edition of Lago in the Morning with Blake and Tyler includes my good friend Dale Rankin, owner, publisher of the Island Moon, will be back in the box. We have a microphone set up for him. I was so excited when I talked to Dale earlier in the week because of the subjects he was bringing up. I wanted to go on the air immediately. Most of you know that Dale Rankin has a unique understanding of the local information gap. As a terrific writer and has an understanding of the local problems we're having. He's local. He's our neighbor. He lives here. He gets it, and his explanations are first class, concise, interesting, informative. You can pick up an edition of the Island Moon, and they're available at most Stripe stores. Take a look at the headlines, the stories. They are all about us, where we live, where we work, and where we play. And then right under the headline, take a look at the byline. Just about everything is written by Dale Rankin. For those of you in my neighborhood, if your garbage day is today, you can pick up your free copy of the Island Moon at Town & Country, thanks to Dotson Lewis. And your caller times will not be in your front yard this morning.
What happened?
I wasted almost 10 minutes walking around looking and seeing, because Tim and Phyllis across the street, I usually see theirs in their driveway. I have to kind of fumble around in my yard and look for mine, but it's late getting off the press.
I guess they were too busy printing the Island Moon.
It's same press, right?
Yeah, Dale contracts with the Caller Times to print the Island Moon.
Well, Dale gets up early on Thursdays and goes down to the Caller Times and picks them out, and then they hand them out under a underpass somewhere. All right.
We'll get the secret distribution.
That reminds me, that's what Tom Nix used to do with the saltwater angler. He'd have, in fact, he passed away doing that, but he'd have all these distribution places. He'd pop off and drop a bundle there, so I appreciate Dale getting those out to us. I saw HEB is still planning on having the special hour for the seniors to come in. I don't know when that is yet. Walmart announced that they were doing that, but they didn't say, because not all the Walmarts are running 6 to 11 p.m. right now, but they're going to make it when seniors can go in there for an hour, I understand. I haven't found out when that's going to be. I did notice that Moody's is continuing the 12 to 6:30 hours, Monday through Friday till further notice. On Saturdays, they're going to be open noon until 6 o'clock, and that's just so they can clean, cut the meat, and grind the stuff. They have plenty of product. It takes a while to get it out there. So
there was a video of Terry from Moody's on the Caller Times website saying, we've seen this before. We've been through it, during Hurricane Celia. I mean, he was reflecting on Hurricane Celia. I mean, Moody's been around 55 years or so.
Yeah,
and I guarantee you, no disrespect to our friends at the Hebes, I can taste the difference in the steaks.
Channel 3 had a story last night about a private company called Physicians Express. It's in the 1000 block of Santa Fe. They've got tests for the Wuhan flu virus. They're prepared to start administering those under the guidelines offered by the CDC. If you need to be tested, Physicians Express has some questions you'll need to answer relating to your symptoms, your travel history, and your medical history. But it's is it the 1,000 block or the 1,100 block of Santa Fe?
I don't know the block number.
It's the 1,000 block of Santa Fe. They've received 50 COVD tests, and they're starting to administer that. The county judge, they're going to start.
The mobile.
The county and the city are going to start testing today, right?
That's right. I saw that's definitely a go, and their number to call. They have the protocol for the CDC, and you have to call this number 361-826-7200 and answer the questions. If you don't, if you don't have all the symptoms, if you don't have a fever, they say just, they don't want to get inundated with somebody that's got the sniffles. They want somebody, you have to pass those protocols before they'll let you come through the drive-through. Then they don't do blood or anything. They just do nasal swab, and then they take that away and run it off for testing.
And if you didn't see it, County Judge Barbara Canales had a news conference yesterday to announce some changes at the courthouse. She's calling it Project Remote Control. The courthouse is going to remain open, but personal interactions are going to be limited. The judge, when we talked to her, was it yesterday?
Day before.
Day before. She brought up the fact that County Clerk Kara Sands was making some arrangements. If you're hoping to get a marriage license, for instance, you're going to have to wait for a while. They've got plans to put up a plexiglass petition to protect the employees, but no word on when that's going to happen.
Kevin Kieschnick's also made some changes at the tax department over there. You can
just remember to order your license plate by mail in time. Good grief.
Yeah, well, you can also make payments on online too, so it's not that big a deal. They just don't want to have a lot of face-to-face time with
And
them.
actually, even if you're right up against the deadline, I think they give you something online that you can show to the policeman if you don't get it by mail in time.
And Dale Rankin was on KIII last night with a look at what was going on before all the big changes came back with came, and he's got details of that. You go to KIII. Dale will be in just about 50 minutes. So I still saw some major activity in the HEB at Robert and Alameda. I didn't stroll around to go to the other ones like the big stores on the Bluff and Saratoga. Is that out where you were talking about?
Yeah, I went to I had to go to Walmart to get a prescription anyway. So I went there, got my prescription around 3:30. Looked around for stuff. I thought, this, in case we get a shelter in one of those things, I thought maybe I can see if I can find some kind of staple stuff. They were out of paper towels. They were out of toilet paper. They were out. The whole thing of cheese and lunch meat was totally gone. There was maybe one container of crema, no yogurt, no anything. There was there was actually plenty.
I don't understand buying this stuff that expires. You
Yeah.
got maybe a week or two shelf life on yogurt. Why are you buying more than?
I don't.
You're going to go beyond the expiration date if you're not careful. And I don't want to eat expired yogurt.
Well, you can tell. I mean, it smells bad, or the things.
It's called panic buying. Just like storing just roll after roll of toilet paper in your garage. The rats are going to eat it.
I don't get it. I could get a little stomach flu and be fine for a month, and I didn't go buy any. I go buy one of those giant packs of that probably has enough for a month, and I'd bought one a couple weeks ago, so I'm good.
I checked my supplies. I've got 7 of the big, huge Cottonelle, so I'm good. Plus, I've got. My son has a bunch, like you said, one of those pallet ones you get at Sam's in his garage.
Don't you visit HEB like once a week? Or Walmart?
I go
the grocery store.
I go 3 times a week, easy, because it's like I'm just over there. I need this. It's
but you get your prescriptions filled at Walgreens.
Walmart.
Well, Walmart.
Yeah, long story. It has to do with how much they cost when you're not on insurance.
Well, I switched to HEB from
I like HEB.
CVS.
Yeah.
You do have the application GoodRx, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And you enter your prescription name. It searches all the pharmacies and gives you the cheapest cash price.
Yeah.
And a lot of times Walmart beats almost everybody. I mean, by $20+.
Yeah,
do?
yeah, they
Walmart?
do. Yeah.
It's not all. I mean, sometimes HEB will be. I mean, you've got to look. You download the app. It's called GoodRx, and you type in your drug name, and it'll search it. And sometimes I've found that GoodRx is actually lower than my prescription copay.
That is often true, and I've found the same thing that happened with that. And it depends. I've had prescriptions at Walgreens. I love going to HEB because I'm there anyway. And when it's bad when they go, "Hello, Mr. Thorson," they know your name because you go there so often.
Yeah, or that means you've got health issues.
Well, I have a lot of prescriptions.
Yeah, Tran knows me over at the CVS.
Yeah, they go, "Hello, Mr. Thorson."
They know me too. They're about to have got my birthday memorized too. They're pretty close.
Steven over at Walmart's getting that way. Well, they know who you are, though, and some of the guys like, "Oh, you're the fishing guy," or whatever. Oh, okay.
Well, I didn't mean to open the door to your private life, but Blake's got. They were asking questions last night. I just said Blake's got a family issue. His sister Sue is sick.
Yep,
and in the hospital.
Yep, her prayers would be appreciated. Little complications associated with her COPD.
Let me see. I had that. You guys got me so jacked up yesterday. I was worried about loose ends, and I'm thinking, did you?
There are a lot of loose ends associated with the way we were doing this show. We used to have a producer that could help tie up some of the loose ends, and now that's me. And Tyler.
Well, he never had to set up any phone calls or interviews or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And his basic duties was just telling you who was on line 1, 2, 3, or 4, and
he put together
listening to my music.
He edited down the podcast, and there's some behind the scenes technical.
Did
stuff.
the bumper stuff for you, which is hard to find.
Yep.
All right.
It's not hard to find when you're at a radio station and you've got the ASCAP BMI license and you can play copyrighted material.
Yes.
That means you've got health issues.
Sorry.
Hey, see, there's Tyler listening to the live stream. We've already.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to find the comment so we can answer.
And,
there we go.
Ted Mendel wins the First Online Today award. I'm thinking if I go find a couple of big containers of toilet paper, we can give those out as prizes.
I can't get the.
I'll have to go drive for you. Hang on.
It didn't do what?
Did you find it?
No, I updated it, and it's because.
All right, so in the search box, type Lago in the morning.
It's in there.
All right, and then click on that. Look on the left side, and it ought to say videos, and there ought to be a little red square by it that says live. And by the way, if you're listening, do us a favor, share us. We'd appreciate you doing it every day. It helps us go viral and helps with the Facebook algorithm, so more people can join us and listen to the show. It's certainly appreciated if you could do that.
It didn't update it.
It's really neat too when we have Dale, for example, in here. You can ask a question. Hey, what do you know about Packery, or ask a question about HEB's hours or whatever.
Yep, if we can get Lago.
Let me hang on a second.
All right.
All right, you see that? Today's edition of Lago in the Morning, Blake and Tyler, Dale Rankin. All right. Share now.
Well, we're already on this. Hang on.
I'm here.
Yeah, no, you want to go here.
I've already.
You haven't gone to the. You want to go to the live stream? If you want to go to the live stream, go there.
Yeah, we've got to simplify this. Well, I think we're going to have another stream or two.
That's it right there.
In the next
Yes.
next day or so.
Okay.
I had hoped to have us up on
That's
Google,
irrelevant,
YouTube today, but with some of my personal issues, I did not get my to-do list completed.
You didn't?
I did not. And come about 8 o'clock, I said, nope. I'm done with 4 hours sleep. I'm shooting for 7.
Lago, when he was over at the Brand X, we talk about that, and he says, God, for the love of God, I just can't sleep. We're sitting there, and I go to bed at 11 o'clock last night. I wake up at 2:30, can't go back to sleep.
It's amazing for me how I have slipped right back into this. I set my alarm at 4:45 to get up, get showered and dressed, and up here before you guys get here. And the past 2 days, I have woken up at 4:44, right before my alarm went off. So I'm back into the rhythm.
I wake up, and I have mine set at 4:35, or I actually have Alexa set at 4:28 because I don't trust my phone. Anyway, it goes off, and I'm like, I'll wake up an hour before and think, hey, I've got another hour, and then there it comes. But there's a lot involved with doing stuff like this. You have to know exactly where you are, what's going on, who said what.
Ted Mandel, good morning. Mark Edward Tyler, Gary Osborne, Robert Sachs, good to see you guys again. James Addison, and Cecil Childers has a great idea. Caller Time should lift their paywall on their app temporarily, I think. Don't you?
That's a great idea.
It is.
Yep.
They will never think of that themselves. Hats off to Brian Gully's appointment for the port of Corpus Christi. He's the new port commissioner.
Yep. Congratulations, Brian.
Yogurt has a shelf life. Whoops. Chico Chavarria, Chuck Daffron, and Lindy Sis. Good morning, Lindy. Frank Benevito, Randy Cross. Did you get that message I sent Randy?
Yes.
Because he was having problems hooking up to his Bluetooth.
Yep. And I will, like I said, I yesterday spun out of control, and I will get a hold of him right after.
Herman and Mark Gottlich. Thank you. If you can share that Lago in the Morning page, the beta test broadcast with your friends, we'd really appreciate it.
I had a great one of my friends on Facebook, we were talking about hours and stuff for the grocery stores.
Yeah.
And I'm still thinking about this. One of them suggested, why don't they have the stores go hours by your zip code? And I thought, well, kind of like they do with like when you can water.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a natural selection, though. If I am, 78415 or what's the one way out in Calallen, 10, I'm not going to come to the H-E-B in Flower Bluff.
Right.
I mean, it is kind of self-deciding by zip code because of the geographic locations of the H-E-B.
Yeah, there should be enough. Although, we're going out to, I don't live on the island or in Flower Bluff, but, you want toilet paper, you go roam down there too. So, I can understand not driving out from Calallen to here to go poach stuff.
It's an issue, I think, of just getting the stuff there. Because if toilet paper and paper towels, those are the big ones. But I mean, there was no starch 2 days ago when I left. No potatoes, no rice. Nothing like that. But you just clear some of the, other stuff, the T-shirts out, and put in pallets of where the T-shirts were. Put in pallets of toilet paper. But I don't think they have enough in their supply chain to get them.
They showed on Facebook last night, or one of the news reports they had here, they showed H-E-B's warehouse, and it was chock full of stuff. They have to have certain trucks get out there, and they deliver the goods. And
yep. Well, quit delivering the T-shirts and pots and pans, and deliver the forget the GM stuff. Bring the toilet paper.
People are buying paper plates though, and aluminum foil like they're going to camp. My son was able to cook this gourmet dinner only because a lot of people are freaked out by purple potatoes. Those heirloom potatoes, the fingerling stuff. Mm-hmm. Those were around at the H-E-B on Saratoga.
I like the purple potatoes.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of folks don't.
Yeah.
Like, I might have some friends in Flower Bluff that won't eat blue corn tortilla chips.
You mean the new potatoes?
The little ones, yeah, that are they kind of have a dirt taste to them.
Crawfish boil.
Yeah,
potatoes.
the new potatoes. No, these are the little ones that are like the purple ones, and the ones that look like a ginger root.
Yeah, they come in a bag with an
And they ain't
assortment of
cheap.
little potatoes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. I couldn't sleep last night either because things are popping so loudly. I watched the movie. I'm gonna wait until Dale gets here because it involves the FBI and a reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, or the Atlanta Constitution-Journal. A couple of other things. I remember back when we were talking about Gitmo, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and he was explaining how the jihadists hope to exploit our PC culture in order to infiltrate the West. Y'all remember that? In an interview on Megyn Kelly's Fox News program back when she was on the air, James Mitchell, one of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's interrogators, explained the logic behind that, and I'll explain why I'm bringing this up in just a second. Here's the way political correctness works for a guy like Sheikh Khalid Mohammed. It allows him to operate in our midst without being challenged. It allows him to ratchet up the focus on Sharia law without us pushing it back. And we end up inadvertently imposing on ourselves the blasphemy laws of Sharia because we cut back on the things that they find offensive. Well, it turns out the exploitation of our PC culture is not just for radical Islamics. The Chinese communists are exposing it pretty well. China is exploiting our PC culture to spread disinformation, I believe. It's political correctness propaganda and the Wuhan flu. This guy named Kyung La, calling this the China virus, is both xenophobic and unscientific. So in an effort to downplay their incompetence and bungling of the virus that began in Wuhan, anybody got a problem with that?
I don't.
No, Wuhan.
I've never been a huge political correctness fan.
Well, they're zeroing in on the America media's obsession with being politically correct by drumming it into our heads is racist and xenophobic to call the Wuhan virus, or the Chinese flu, or the Chinese coronavirus. He goes on to post, racism is not the right tool to cover your own incompetence.
Well, these are the same people that were complaining about Trump being xenophobic and racist by putting the travel restrictions from China. Now that's like, wish he'd have done it sooner.
Well, Kurt Schleicher posted on his Twitter page, all communists are lying sacks of garbage.
Exactly like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of PC.
More evidence suggests that the virus was not originated at the seafood market in Wuhan at all, not to mention the so-called made in China. Well, you know what? The race cart isn't the right tool to cover your bungling, localized epidemic that is now, thanks to your incompetence in China, spread all over the globe. And I'm not bringing up any of the conspiracy theories. Why we shouldn't be surprised that China is scrambling to protect itself. And lucky for the Chi-Coms, their propaganda is spreading like a virus among the American news media, which is an easy feat since the American news media never passes up the opportunity to play useful idiots to anybody that's got an authoritarian regime. I mean, they did it for Iran, so of course they're going to do it for China. Calling the China virus is xenophobic and unscientific is, I'm sorry, BS. Unscientific. My dying foot. Go ahead.
Trump can't win on this. I was sitting in the waiting room at the hospital yesterday. I left when it reached 10 people and stood out in the hall. But there was a group of folks talking about how this China virus was all Trump's fault because he downplayed it and didn't do enough in the early days. And
I told you about Obama yesterday.
Yeah. And he's doing more than Obama ever did, and now they're criticizing him for doing too much.
Yeah.
He's not going to win.
The guy can't win in the media, but his ability to use social media and talk around the folks who are trying to put words in his mouth is really impressive. I have learned a lot from the way he handles that.
Ronald Brownstein is a CNN contributor, of course. He's also a senior editor for The Atlantic, and this is what he tweeted yesterday. Nobody calls the 1919-1920 pandemic the Spanish flu anymore, and not because we are soft on the Inquisition. It's just not a useful way to name the disease. Yeah, actually, we do still call it the Spanish flu. Yeah. And we also refer to the Ebola virus as the Ebola virus, unless you're Joe Biden. In that case, you refer to it as that thing from Africa.
Ted Mandel points out on the live stream that, in the 50s it was the Asian flu, the 60s the Hong Kong flu, and the ME in MERS stands for Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks, Ted.
The ME in MERS. I brought that up yesterday. And the swine flu, and the animal rights activists didn't get pissed off about that. Containing the Wuhan virus would have required hard work, transparency, and honesty, and I'm sorry, you're not going to get that in China. Getting the American news media to help exploit our PC culture on the Chinese communists is easy as falling off a log.
No kidding. China, known for their openness and transparency.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beijing spent over a month detaining, disappearing, and denying voices who were sounding the alarm, and China is now trying to muddy the water to get to the truth of that. And more evidence suggests that the virus was not originated at the seafood market in Wuhan is absolute BS. Lucky for them, they don't have to work too hard to muddy the water, since the American news media is more than happy to carry mud on their behalf. China playing the racism card proves they're also stealing our the anti-intellectual property.
Yeah, they're bad about that.
Well, how ignorant do you have to be to think that our enemies are unaware of our weaknesses?
The Chinese
know exactly where we're weak.
Are smart and hardworking in the intelligence community, and they take the long view. One of my complaints has always been, especially when I was in Washington, is our politicians are worried what's going to be on the news tonight. The Chinese are worried about what's going to be on the news 20 years from now.
Well, they didn't act that way when this Wuhan flu broke out. There was is it because they don't have the healthcare facilities? They don't want the world to know of their failures. Right.
And the number of deaths and the way this spread could be construed as a failure of the Chinese healthcare system.
And our West's PC culture is absolutely one of our greatest weaknesses. Nothing gets the media on your side faster than pretending you're a victim. Jesse Smollett.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I made a comment on another radio show once about wanting to get into a duel with a female senator.
Yeah.
And that was all blowing up until she got caught on a mic fat-shaming me. And then that turned around because I became the victim.
Well, you couple that with the media's hyper-focused obsession on hurting President Trump, and it's no wonder the Chinese communists found a willing partner in the American media. I mean, good God, China rejected assistance from the CDC and the World Health Organization and covered up the outbreaks for weeks. That's just a fact. Maybe one of the symptoms of the Wuhan virus is being more susceptible to communist propaganda.
Governments are made up of people, and people have pride and are often unwilling to accept help. And I'm going to flash back again to my days in Congress. It's amazing what you can get done if you don't care who gets credit for it.
Well, wash your hands. Wash your hands again. Wash your hands and pray. Wash your hands of all these useful idiots once and for all. I swear you'll be amazed how much better you. the most effective social distancing you can practice, I think, is turning off the national news.
It's not the news anymore. It's the coronavirus telethon. I mean, you turn on Fox News, it's wall-to-wall coronavirus. Even now they're running their commercials in a shrunken box with a bottom third talking about the coronavirus.
Yeah, it's wild. I watched last night, and they had a few interesting things on there. They were talking about new drugs. Actually, they're old drugs that they're going to use for combating the coronavirus that seems to be having some good results in some early tests out in, I think, France. I've got it, here, let me think. Yeah.
Look at that. You're doing the Rush Limbaugh shuffling through the papers.
Yeah, with my formerly nicotine, well, not nicotine's finger. Okay, chloroquine and hydrochloroquine are old drugs that have been used against malaria. And one study in France says it stopped the coronavirus, so the president will announce a measure today at 10 a.m. press conference our time that he's going to relax FDA rules because you can't use that. Well, you can't use it for that unless you have whatever testing that the FDA requires. He's going to relax those rules, and that it sounds very promising just from what the literature I've read on that.
Here's the deal. There's a possible treatment, Gilead. Gilead? Gilead.
They intentionally make these medical words hard to pronounce.
I'm going to come up on another one here in just a second. Gilead Sciences is a biotech company. They developed the Remdesivir, Remdesivir, to treat Ebola and the Marburg virus infection. It had some success against the MERS and the SARS virus, and the company is hoping it can work against the COVID-19 or Wuhan flu. There was a guy at the American Council on Health and Science, Josh Bloom, and this is what he wrote yesterday. This Remdesivir is a fairly potent inhibitor of coronavirus replication with no obvious toxicity. It may or may not work as a pill, but it's irrelevant at this time since it will probably be given IV. In a study in rhesus monkeys, the data indicated that a significant concentration of the drug will be found in the blood and that an adequate supply or quantity of the drug should be delivered to the sites where it's needed. And given the properties of this, as well as the desperate need for the coronavirus therapy, he estimates that the drug has at least a 50% chance of becoming the first drug to treat the virus. And I told you yesterday, repurposing drugs is not uncommon. Viagra was not developed for the purpose it's now most commonly used for. This doesn't go after the virus directly, but it targets the system the virus uses to replicate itself. It's kind of like
that's how antivirals
it
typically
hijacks
work.
it, yeah, and keeps it from replicating.
Now we've learned a lot about viruses from AIDS research. Our knowledge of viruses in the past 20 years has really increased. Plus, with the technology where you can sequence the DNA,
Well,
really
President Trump had a meeting with the CEO of Gilead, Gilead. His name is Daniel O'Day. He pitched. Do you remember that from your old days of radio? Dan O'Day.
Undercover Angel.
Huh?
Undercover Angel.
No, he did a prep sheet.
Okay. Yeah.
But there was a song called
Undercover Angel.
Undercover Angel.
Pitched the promise of the drug at a meeting with President Trump. The president said, quote, "Get it done, Daniel. Don't disappoint us." So there's a guy at Biospace who splashed some cold water on this. A paper raises some safety concerns from Gilead's virus treatment. But this is an unpublished paper, and it's based on 3 patients.
No, you need a bigger,
more than that.
Yeah.
You need a bigger group. in a double-blind
Other companies
study.
are also working on the treatments. So it's not encouraging or discouraging. My hope is that this will ease the panic.
We've got to ease the panic.
Here's something else you may not have. I didn't hear until yesterday. They're saying there's different blood type responses to the coronavirus.
If you got O positive blood,
who's the man? You're good.
You're good.
Not so much blood type A may be more vulnerable to COVID-19, the study claims. Researchers found that of the 206 patients in the study who died, 85 had blood type A, equivalent to 41% of all the deaths. But that doesn't mean that you're screwed if you have type A, but it doesn't mean you're safe necessarily if you have type O positive. Advice is, of course, to still wash your hands and follow the guidelines issued by authorities, whatever blood type you happen to have. And what's the number? Okay, so they're going to do the mobile testing, and they said this start today down at the old Memorial Hospital parking lot. If you think you have the coronavirus, we're not looking, if you got the sniffles or whatever, don't inundate them with a bunch of stuff. You have to be go through the questionnaire that they ask, the CDC asks. It's 361-826-7200. And if you qualify for all of that stuff, you can drive yourself down there. Don't have another, person go with you and infect them.
For God's sakes, don't take an Uber.
Do not do that or a Lyft. But anyway, the number is 361-826-7200.
And I just pulled out my medical card and double-checked. I just want to take this opportunity to say goodbye. I'm type A blood. It's been nice knowing you.
Okay, well, those with us with O type will carry on for you.
A positive right here.
Well, the thing is, you get called for blood type or for donating blood. I get called because I'm the universal donor on the positive side, and yours was rare.
Yeah, my mother was AB negative, which is like very
rare.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go down and look for Rankin. I think he's here.
I don't know. I
haven't heard the dogs.
No, I have not heard the dogs barking. I tell you, Tyler, as I've been looking at this, I do think it may be time to step away from the newscasts and find a show on Netflix or Hulu or whatever you have to binge watch.
I understand that because it's like so frustrating. We were, you keep watching, it was like, God, for the love of God, can't we just go back to the day when we worried about, the Harbor Bridge and North Beach? That was our biggest worry. I was talking to Aaron Baxter, the Friends of Padre president, last week, and I said, can you imagine if we try to do the cleanup now or something like, or any kind of organization with people in it?
Well, you worry about some of these nonprofit organizations. I know you're involved in CCA, and they had to cancel their banquet.
Which was tonight.
It makes fundraising very difficult for nonprofits. You're seeing the same thing in political candidates. One of your big tools was dinner with high-dollar donors. Get 50 people around to kick in, $500 or $1,000 a plate and have dinner. It's kind of hard to ask for that much money without, looking somebody in the eye and saying, "Hey, I need your help to make America great again."
Yeah, it was funny. I got a phone call and I thought, well, I normally don't answer strange phone calls. It was a 361 number. Through all of this, this guy calls up, hello, Mr. Thorson. I don't know if you're familiar with the highway police, so whatever, the one that always asks that has the signal, the sticker you put in your back window. And he was going through his spiel about, if you could donate to the highway whatever fund. I'm thinking that guy, he's optimistic to get people on the phone right now to donate. Any kind of nonprofit is going to have a hard time. What the sad part was,
there's a run on getting
money.
That's one of the reasons the stock market is going down. I guess Dale is here. The dogs are barking.
It's our mascots here at the studio at Summer Show's Blake Manor, Barenthal Manor, in his rumpus room where we broadcast, sort of like Wayne's World, but
party on, dude.
But Blake's got a cool. Hey, there he is.
Hey,
you're
good morning.
Like the rest of us, we'll get you here. Let me get you set up there. We had your seat sanitized for your protection.
Good morning, Dale.
Morning.
So I broke the cardinal rule of Wuhan flu. I was so glad to see Dale. I hugged him this morning.
Well, I bathed in hand sanitizer, so I'm good.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Man, it is so good to see you.
Good to see you guys too, man. I
wonder what was going on. Then all of a sudden I heard we're getting the band back together, and here I am.
It wouldn't be the same without you. We even got
You got
Jay.
you got a lot nicer digs here than you had before, I have to say.
Isn't that the truth? You got room for your legs? Wow.
And then you get to sit down.
Got to watch out for Simba, though. Simba has been known to uneat in the studio.
Oh.
That's Lulu. Lulu's good. She's good.
So
I started to bring my dog this morning.
She would have fit right in.
Yeah.
Fairwell Menagerie.
Well, I take her with me on Thursday when I go down and pick up the papers at the printer. She goes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, she likes to run around on the park down there.
Where do you hand those things out? You have different, or do you deliver them to the Stripe store yourself? Dotson.
No, I take them out to. We go under the freeway in Flower Bluff. It's like a bad drug deal.
Yeah.
And my delivery guys all meet us there, and I pick them up at the printer in my truck, and then we take them over there and load them, and then they take them. And it's 3 or 4 delivery people that go out and distribute them.
You give them a flat of toilet paper, just part of the deal?
You know, we usually put about 600 papers in Whataburger.
Yeah.
And
Nobody's in there to eat in the dining room.
no, I can't do that this time. So I'm not sure how we're going to deal with that yet. We've got, our several of the a lot of the restaurants on the island are only delivering, and so nobody's going inside of.
We should volunteer to go out to red lights of the busy intersection.
pass the boot, fill the
and
boot,
hand
only,
them out.
give it like the fireman only the other direction.
Yeah. They used to
I'm
do
going to
that.
give you something. I don't want you to give me anything.
Well-
We can make get a cardboard box and write that on it.
They used to do that with the Houston Post in the afternoons.
Yeah,
Really?
newspaper boys would be on the corner selling newspapers.
Well, they would do that with the news too when I worked there before the Express News combined, but they weren't supposed to. They'd put 1 quarter in and take all the papers and then sell.
I remember that.
Sell them on the street corner.
Outside the
Used to drive
restaurants.
the editor crazy. He'd go out there and yell at them.
I watched the movie last night, and I was waiting for you to get here to talk about it. I couldn't sleep, so about a little after 2 o'clock,
Right.
I rent Clint Eastwood's movie Richard Jewell.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that. I read a review of it in the New York
did?
Times book review. Yeah. It sounded like he kind of got the short end of the stick, right? Eastwood directed that, right?
Yeah. So for those of you who've forgotten, Richard Jewell is the guy that, it's about the 1996 Olympic bombing in Atlanta. And the security guard, who was first celebrated by the media for discovering the bomb and saving lives, only to become the target of the media and the witch hunt when the FBI began investigating him as a prime suspect. And what happened to him is just immoral and tragic. When the FBI first began looking into Richard Jewell's life, one of the agents did what I guess FBI agents apparently do a lot. He leaked to a reporter that Richard Jewell was a suspect, and the reporter then did what reporters do a lot. She published the leak and set loose a media swarm on an innocent man. And given our present climate, Richard Jewell made me just seethe with anger, since I'm talking to a writer, at how easy it is for the media to just destroy someone's life.
Yeah. It's
Poster
unusual.
child sitting right here.
It's unusual for the FBI to say anything about an investigation. That was always like if you're a reporter.
Yeah, we won't comment on an argument.
Yeah, you call them up and go, hey, we're investigating a tip that a space alien landed at City Hall. Well, we don't comment on investigations. So you could write a story and with a non-denial denial because they would never talk.
Well, there was one particular scene that just the reporter, what's her name? I'll get it in a minute. Enters the newsroom after the story hits the front page, and all the other reporters jump up and start applauding and cheering.
Yeah. Well, that's not very realistic. They'd stand around the coffee pot and talk about what a schmuck they were for writing that story because they got scooped.
I found myself thinking
That's a little Clint Eastwoodish.
Yeah.
Newsrooms are a lot more backstabbing than that.
Jewell was just an overeager guy who just wanted to be in law enforcement, and the FBI profiled him as a hero bomber, someone who sets a bomb in order to rush in and play the hero.
Whatever happened to that guy?
He died in 2007.
Oh, he did.
He was exonerated finally, but they ruined his life basically.
Yeah, but he couldn't have any kind of life because you can't take back the gossip, the rumors.
No,
Yeah, the bad thing you do ends up on the front page. The retraction is buried next to the used car ads.
Well,
Convictions make the front page. Acquittals make the back
other
page.
thing that this is the FBI. Rather than just bring him in for questioning, they had this BS ruse, and they told him that they were making a training film. And
Oh, really?
yeah, pretend to waive his Miranda rights and just answer the question. So he follows them to their office. The media ambushes him, and he has no idea that he's walking into a trap. The making of this training video, he gets on camera and he's answering questions. And I guess finally it begins to dawn on him that something's not right, but he refused to waive his rights and wisely asked for a lawyer.
So none of the stuff he said was admissible.
Well,
Early on.
they gave it to the reporter.
Who eventually did they find out did it? The bombing.
They didn't.
They never did.
Not that I recall.
Huh.
But why anyone would talk to law enforcement without a lawyer? I mean, this just, man, it's just so wrong.
I remember when all that was going on.
Kathy Bates is in a movie. She plays Richard Jewell's mama. She's pretty good.
She'd be
just
great
about
for that.
anything. But
Not to here's something that's neat about this. Look at this, Dale. Ted Mandel, have a paper delivered with the food on the island. That'd be a great service. Here's something else this is the cool part of us doing this. Look at that. There's Missy Maderi saying, "Good morning. Public service announcement. Jury duty canceled through April 20th by the Board of Judges. Emergency and essential hearings still will proceed."
Sweet. I had jury duty next week.
Did you?
Thank you, Missy. Thank you,
guess
Board of Judges.
That's good news if you're out on bail. It's not such good news if you're sitting in county waiting on a hearing.
If I were a lawyer for some of those people sitting in county waiting for a hearing, I think I would go back and ask for a rehearing on my bail.
Yeah.
They're letting folks go. That they catch and release now with the coronavirus in several cities.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, well, I don't want to hold him. Or then you're like, well, you held this guy detained with 50 other prisoners. That's against his rights. Well,
Yeah, I was talking to one of the business owners on the island last night, and now there's a lot of confusion about the bars are still open, the restaurants are closed, the bars are still open, but it's 50 people in a confined space or a semi-confined space, so they're not clear on like two or three of the places out there have it inside, and then they have an outside patio. It's a smoking area.
Right.
So is it 50 in each? Is it 50 collectively?
And I don't think we have anything mandatory here. I think it's
not
voluntarily.
Yeah.
And they're suggesting 250. So
Port Aransas had a vote last night. I don't know how it came out. They were taking a little more draconian approach, and I don't know how they voted. I didn't go up there. But I will tell you, I was out on the beach yesterday, and the beach filled up all of a sudden. There's a lot of people out there. And I heard that Port Aransas was really busy, too.
I was
didn't
wondering,
go up there.
it's with all the people hanging around, where are they staying?
And I think
don't
you're
know.
far enough away from people on the beach, and you've got the wind dispersing everything. I mean, obviously, if you got 50, 60 drunk college kids on spring break around a campfire, that's probably a problem. But if it's you and your family under a tent behind your car with the next car, 20 feet away, I wouldn't be very worried about that.
You did a report for Channel 3 last night on spring break 2020. The spring break that never ends.
Going on there.
Huh?
There was no distancing going on there. That was last Saturday, and there was about 3,000 kids out there, and they were packed.
I went out there. I went to Bob Hall, and then we drove down to through Clayburg and took the exit. But it was the same way yesterday afternoon.
there's a lot of people out there, but they call it the pit. It's at mile marker 32. It's just south of where the bollards end in Port A, and that's where the kids collect. And they got a DJ out there and brass poles and trucks and all kinds of stuff. They've been doing that this is the third year I've been out there, and there weren't, I don't think, as many this year as in the last couple of years. I'd say there were 2,000 or 3,000 out there Saturday, but then they were gone by. They broke them up. They're
they
not
did?
There. Yeah. Yeah, the council in Port A passed some sort of a rule. I don't know. I haven't kept up with
It was a nighttime rule, like after 5:30 they couldn't
That was
do anymore.
already there. You couldn't drink on the beach after 6. But I think they passed the gathering rule. You couldn't have so many people, because I drove by there again on Sunday, and they were not out there. But the weird thing, we're actually getting college students on the Padre end of the island. We never get college students. I drove out there yesterday.
They closed the beaches in Cameron County.
Oh, they did?
They sure did. The counterpart to Scott here down there at Trevino closed them 4 or 5 days ago. I mean, everything, the coastal RV park, the access roads. So, I mean, you can still go if you're at a hotel there, obviously, but none of the access roads you can pop in there, and that's huge.
Well, if you can't drive on the beach,
you can on the other access roads, the one like 6, 5, and 6,
Right.
the last ones you can there, but I went down there with Jade at the opening of that new park.
Yeah.
Last summer. It's wonderful. That was a big deal. But I think the thing is with South Padre, they have a lot of Mexican nationals that own condos and things there, and I think they were afraid with the gatherings.
Yeah.
The kids at spring break down there, you have all these kids from out of town, many of them from out of state, from the Midwestern colleges that will go down there. So maybe that was the thinking. I talked to Barbara Canales the other day when we had her on here, and they're okay with the beach as long as they spread out.
Well, you got to go somewhere, right?
Right.
The beaches, there's plenty of room there to do that. It was Port Aransas last weekend. It was packed. It was bumper to bumper. I've not been back up there since Sunday. I don't know how the traffic is doing.
The seashore is fine. They closed Malachite Visitor Center due to the coronavirus scare or whatever, but they're still servicing the bathrooms and all that thing. So you can go out there. And we never historically see a lot of spring breakers out there. You'll see families that are on spring break, but never spring breakers because they don't want to cough up the $10 or $20 it is to get in there and drive through.
Right. I actually saw some college kids up north of Packard yesterday, which is very unusual. The other thing I saw that was unusual is sargassum weed stacked up about 2 or 3 feet high just south of Bob Hall Pier.
That Nick was reporting on that. Back in the old days, April was the peak of the sargassum.
Yeah.
You remember? I took Jim and Nick and I went out there. It was waist deep.
Really?
There was a Jeep bobbing in the surf like
Really?
a bobbing cork.
Right at the end of Park Road 22, right there at the seashore, right there by those sticks. And he's right. One of those things. I think I'll crawl over this pile, and obviously they're not from here. And was that the one that somebody pulled out with? Was it Nick or might have been Nick? We watched somebody.
I think so. Yeah.
Pull somebody out with one of those stretchy ropes, not a regular, proper tow strap you'd buy from Sears or.
We went down to Yarborough Pass and pulled that guy out.
We've done a lot of things over there, but historically, that was back in the day. April was like, oh my God, you get sargassum any month it can show up, but April was the one where it stack up and stack up.
Is that because the currents are changing? They're shifting back to the south?
Well, it had to be the tides because it would wash up and it would leave it there.
I know that
like
the sargassum used to come from the Sargasso Sea over, I guess the Caribbean or whatever, and it come in here, and then it would start growing in the Gulf.
Really? And
it depends on the currents, but we haven't had, it's great. Much as we hate it, it's great for, it collects the blow sand, so all the sand that doesn't end up in, where it's not supposed to, you don't lose so much beach. But it's, it hides boards with nails in it. And it used to be so bad, Jim, we talked about having a sargassum festival. It's like, if you're known for your fire ants, just celebrate a fire ant festival. Yes. And just excuse for folks to drink or whatever and go to the beach. But we'd get so many complaints. Do you remember this, Dale, that people are like, it's so icky, all that sarcasm. Can't they do something about
Just
it?
take a rake and make a little hole.
Yeah. You would take one of those garden rakes, the kind that really...
I've seen people do that.
Yeah, it works.
Just
make it square.
Yeah, just make it.
I remember that woman. She was out there with her children. I've got a bag I'm putting litter in, me and my dog. You! Hey, you with the dog in the back. Over here. She wanted me to clean it. I went over there and cleaned a spot up for her kids. I figured,
used to be
you're here, you're spending
lady
money,
in the bluff
I'm good.
years ago that did composting with that stuff. She'd go back into where they used to push it into the dunes. She'd go in there and she'd have to wear plastic gloves because it was so much heat. You stick your hand in there, it would.
It was already composted that much?
And she would take it, she'd take it and clean it, get the salt out of it, and then she grew vegetables with it.
We talked about that years ago
Exactly.
On Fridays when you'd have somebody from Turner's in and say, it's great on your lawn if you can rinse it off. I think you even talked about that guy that with that harvesting machine about that.
I interviewed that guy. He was a Rube Goldberg deal.
Yeah.
He had he took 6 snow blowers and he hooked the motors all up together. So he goes out on the beach with this thing, and it's supposed to. It was a screwy idea. I thought he was going to push this thing down the beach, and that thing would mulch the weed up and throw it all the way back over the top of the dunes. Of course, it never worked. He got out there. And when he fired the thing up and it started throwing, it threw sand and anything else he got in it. And so he never got it off the ground. He was trying to sell it to the state, and he did a demonstration, and it didn't work.
I never saw the demonstration, but that was the guy we were talking to.
I bet if we put a diesel engine on that,
It'd be hard to carry around.
one.
If you're blowing, how do you avoid picking up the sand?
It had like what do you call
Time.
them? Runners, like teeth or something.
Yeah.
But it didn't work at all. He got it. It started. It was throwing sand and mulched up weed up in the air, and it went everywhere. It didn't go where it was supposed to.
We should have got the former resident, the guy that invented the Floby. I bet he could have come up with a rude
Floby Rick.
Yeah,
he
Floby.
moved to Fredericksburg.
He got tired of the shotgunning at duck hunting, right?
There was a duck blind like 1,100 feet from his back door, and the law was 1,000, and so he got mad and sold his house. He moved the Floby factory from Flower Bluff to Fredericksburg.
I didn't know they were still making that.
Yeah. I saw
I have no need for it now, but
the Hammer, what is it? Schlemmiker catalog.
Hammaker, Schlemmiker.
Is there, do any of those things work?
The Floby worked.
Well,
tell them what it is for those who don't know what
Floby
it is.
was in there.
Rick was an electrician, I believe, and he had a thing that cleaned up sawdust or something, and he just came up with the idea that if I put a cutter in there and I could run it over my head, I could cut my hair with it. And so
It basically sucks your hair up and then cuts it.
At a certain length.
Yeah.
Be tough on the sideburns, though.
And then if you sit one back, they labeled it Pet Floby and sold it so you could cut your dog's hair.
Did you ever have one?
I tried one.
It attached to your vacuum cleaner, right? It's just a head you put on your vacuum cleaner?
The one I had had its own.
Oh, it's like a dustbuster.
Yeah, but it didn't. All it did was gouge a big hole in my hair, and I did never finish using it.
You know, I
don't think I knew how to use it very well.
I would think that it'd somehow clog up or just, you know how when you were a kid, you get those whizzers, those tops, and somebody'd stick one in your hair, and it'd be like, you'd have to cut it out.
Yeah. On that, we will be back in just a second.
Actress Allison Sweeney for American Humane.
For more than 100 years, American Humane Association has been teaching kids to be kind to animals. Those in our homes, on the farms, on the silver screen, and wildlife conservation, caring for the world's vanishing creatures. But we can't do it alone. Visit kindness100.org to find ways to teach kids how they can make a more caring and humane world for all of us.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A health threat anywhere is a health threat everywhere. I'm Dr. Phil. A new coronavirus outbreak called COVID-19 started in China and is spreading to many countries, including the U.S. It's critical to get the facts about how to protect our friends and loved ones. While CDC is working with states and communities to stop the spread of the virus, health workers and emergency response efforts need our support. The CDC Foundation, a nonprofit organization, is focusing on immediate and critical needs that help protect our communities here at home and those around the world. We can all play a role in stopping this deadly virus. Get updates, learn how to protect your friends and family, and find out how to help. Go to cdcfoundation.org. That's cdcfoundation.org. Together, our impact is greater.
This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the CDC Foundation.
Good morning. It's Lago in the Morning with Blake Tyler. Dale Rankin, owner-publisher of the Isle of Moon, is in the box. It's 7:06 and 71. It's going to be partly cloudy, but the sun should make an appearance by, this afternoon? Or we're going to get some light showers, maybe, I hope. Or have they revised that again?
No, they're saying my weather's saying 22% chance of rain. Now, Friday it's looking 56% chance of rain. Saturday 44% chance of rain.
Not looking as prolific as they had thought.
No, but Friday night they say it's going to get down to 66 degrees.
Really?
So that'll be nice.
Well, 20% is really zero, right? That's like the fail-safe. The weather guys, they say 20%. They mean forget it. It's not raining.
Yeah, that's. Well, maybe there'll be somebody with a garden hose that gets wet.
They do that for the summertime all the time. It's like they have an A forecast, a B forecast, B forecast. In the summertime around here, we always get those showers that pop up. Just could be willy-nilly. It's an A forecast, and the B forecast is 20% chance of showers. So yesterday we didn't have anything. It was raining on the way over here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't?
Yeah, we had. There was rain when I got here yesterday morning.
Humid and overcast is the forecast for today. High of 79, low of 70.
Well, you get to some point, it's going to be hot for the next 3 months. If it rains more than 10 minutes, run because it's a hurricane.
Exactly.
Well, we were talking about the likelihood of people getting to stay home and work from home. I don't know what that takes. Blake brought up the VPN. But I'm thinking here that what the judge was talking about on Tuesday and the announcement she made yesterday, the courthouse is going under something she's calling Project Remote Control. The courthouse will remain open, but social distancing is going to be the rule. Don't touch anybody. Our life has become a Georgia Satellite song. No huggy, no kissy. Keep your hands to yourself.
Well, I don't know. I was reading an article this morning that how sales of condoms and sex toys are up. That was on the Drudge Report this morning. I guess people are figuring they're going to be trapped in their house for a week. They're going to need something to do.
Well, you remember how they had a big blackout in New York City, and they had a bunch of babies after that, and then there was a big blizzard one time. It's just, make whoopee because there's... But there wasn't Netflix then, so maybe things will be different.
Well, I tell you, there is so much on the streaming services now that you could literally sit on your couch for a year and find something interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Well,
they'd find my cold dead body covered in Cheetos and Dr. Pepper.
Well, that's about the best thing you can do right now, isn't it?
I think that's
self-quarantine.
Yep.
Self-quarantine.
Yep. And then, before you hand the remote to somebody, wipe it down with an alcohol wipe.
Well, this is what I don't understand. Granted, I have washed my hands more often than I have been used to doing. But I showered this morning. I washed my hands before I left the house. We have hand sanitizer outside the door.
Yeah.
I started to tell Pamela, that's a great idea, honey, but I think somebody's going to steal that. It's become so valuable.
You're right.
And so we're all here. We're not touching each other. Nobody's sneezing or coughing. And those are the symptoms, right? You're going to get fever, you're going to get a headache, and you're going to have a dry cough.
Yeah. Well, you keep your hands away from your eyes. That's the main thing.
Don't touch anything with your hands. That's with any virus, any cold.
Yeah.
It can't. It's not going to jump into your mouth unless somebody sneezes.
I've always been one of those guys that flushes the toilet with the toe of his shoe anyway, so doesn't make any
elbow.
You spread more germs that way than you know.
Well, not to yourself,
Blake.
I was talking to somebody yesterday that one of the business owners, and one of the places out that he had been on the island. Every 20 minutes they're serving food. And every 20 minutes, a bell rings, and everybody in the place goes and washes their hands. So every 20 minutes, they reset.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
So I told him, well, a bar should do that, right? Put out hand sanitizer every 20 minutes, ding the bell when you have a special on Corona beer.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead and tell us which business that is so we could.
I think it's one of the fast food places he was talking about.
Well,
they're open. They're all pretty
most
much,
of those places advertise in the Island Moon. So
the Doc's is there. We're running several things this week along those lines. Doc's has separated their tables. They've got enough room there. You can go in there, and you got enough space, so you can actually eat there.
You can eat outside too, right?
You can eat downstairs as well.
And that's
then
open air.
Of course, they've got takeout. Some of the other places are only doing takeout.
I saw Marker 37 was talking about how they've got that. What do they got? 7,000 square feet of dock space.
Yeah.
And you can go next door, and Snoopy's will bring it to you.
Right.
So that's another option out there if you're just sick and tired of being cooped up.
Well,
They also have that new Paradise Pier open back up. I was hoping they'd have it at night, but I think they're too worried about vandalism with lights.
Oh.
But that's the best time to. Well, except for right now when they're catching black drum, but.
Well, Michael Mays is staying open.
The only thing that I noticed with them last week, I was out there doing a weekend outlook for Corpus fishing, and what I do is I go in there and steal their Wi-Fi. I do a report out there because there's nothing sexier than looking at the Gulf of Mexico surf and talking about fishing. So I go in there, and they had the doors down, and there was quite a few people out there on Thursday because it was the height of spring break, and just wondering about that 50 person rule. I'm not sure they had that many in there, but Lago and I went out there with Oggs a couple of weeks ago on a Friday. It was one of those fact-finding missions that he likes to go on.
Right.
We went in there, and Michael McGrath, one of the owners, was there. And whenever I see him in there, he's always like, he's not like schmoozing. He's in there building something, and he's got hands that could take off lug nuts with his fingers. He's the guy's obviously a construction type worker. He was gracious enough to, with no notice whatsoever, to let Lago and I and Oggs go back and back. I'd never seen the kitchen. They've got like 10 people back there.
Really?
Oh yeah, and it was immaculate. And he showed us.
Been in there?
No, well, yeah, I hadn't either.
Yeah.
And he let me take pictures, and I thought that was really nice and unusual.
I imagine they're going to be busy.
Yeah, great media relations there.
Yeah.
That stretch of beach there were a lot of people out there yesterday.
Yeah, because
so
it's the free part where you can park.
They actually ticketed a couple of guys running around in the Altogether down in Clayburgh County. I was going through the police reports yesterday.
Really?
Somebody got them. I don't know if it was the constables or if it was the PD. But the two cases of indecent exposure down in Clayburgh County.
Back 10 years ago, it'd be rare to see with somebody with their clothes on.
Yeah. I tell you what, I could be out there in a pair of blue jeans and take my shirt off, and it'd probably get busted for indecent exposure, blinded by the lack of tan.
Those guys they sit in their trucks. They see you coming, and they sit in their trucks. I had one of them follow me down the beach one day. I was out there with my wife, and he got between me and my wife. I picked up a piece of driftwood in case I had to clock him.
That used to be the Wild West down there.
It was creepy. I didn't like it at all.
It was creepy down there. You're right. They'd sit in their trucks, and you drive by, and they're like,
yeah.
It was like looking for a rendezvous kind of like they hang out at the park bathrooms or whatever. I don't know. It was weird. I'm not missing
Mike
those
Ellis
days.
told me he was down there one time, and he liked the beachcomb. Just drive down the beach, and if you see something, he tapped the brakes. He looked in his rearview mirror, and there was a naked guy chasing him down the beach. Saw him tap the brakes and came out and started.
Oh, that's the code.
I think anybody that's spending time here who is, turned right at Bob Hall Pier, and just back when it was that. I was driving along there one day, and I saw a guy that had 3 wrinkles in his, belly going to his waist, and he had on a black G-string, and I thought, I will never be able to get that.
Unsee that,
Like Pamela's
wash my brain.
Like Pamela's dream the other night.
I don't think I look that bad.
Carry your buck knife to poke out your one good eye.
We named that stretch of road that goes to the campground, the RV resort, after Billy Sandefur, and Scott Cross suggested, what about the one that leads over to South of? I said no. Billy called that Brokeback Beach.
That's Brokeback Beach.
He would come back and haunt us, and having Sandefur haunt you in your dreams. That's the last thing you want. So
I just noticed that sign the other day. I'd never seen that before. It's at Billy Sandefur Way.
Yeah.
Has that been there a long time?
A year, something like that.
Yeah.
We just thought it'd be cool to honor him because he learned how to fish on Bob Hall Pier. He was raised by his grandparents out in Agua Dulce, and his papa, kind of like some of the kids that I know that grew up on the bluff, their parents would drop them off, give them $20, and they'd be gone all weekend, like 10 years old.
Right. Yeah.
Come back with, like when we were kids, you come back, you could tell the kids were out in the sun because they had that, all their skin had been peeled on their nose and their cheeks. And they sleep out there on the cot.
Oh,
I've got to say, I am enjoying this conversation. Yours, Lago in the Morning with Blake and Tyler, your neighborhood radio, less than 50% coronavirus talk.
Yes. Regular stuff.
That's all been said, right?
Yeah.
Look, following the blogs and reading the news sites, if you get past the screaming and yelling where people are setting their hair on fire and listen to the health officials, Dr. Phil was just on, and Dr. Phil said the virus has started in China.
I heard that too.
Yeah. All right. And they're still concerned about that PC. It's xenophobic and racist to do that. I don't care what you use to kill the virus germs. Just do that. But I sincerely believe after yesterday afternoon and the stuff that I read last night that the worst of this is over.
I don't know. I don't
know
enough
more people
about
are recovering from it than are dying from it.
But that's this particular strain of this stuff. I believe it's the 4th coronavirus that we've had, right? And this particular one, it evolved in a way that it doesn't kill the host, which means it spreads more quickly. If it kills the host, it's much easier to track and isolate. But this one, you may not even know you have it. And so it spreads much quicker. That's why testing is difficult because you can test negative. It takes 2 weeks to get the test back, right? So it's as it spreads. For instance, I kept trying to figure out why the death rate was so many deaths in Italy. They're letting people come to the hospitals when they get it. And so they're bringing it into the hospitals, and it's going from there rather than staying home.
They're showing that there's also 2 strains, from what I understand. Says from this new scientist, 2 strains of the new coronavirus are spreading around the world, according to analysis of 103 cases. But the World Health Organization insists that there is no evidence that the virus has been changing. So how many strains are there? According to this, viruses are always mutating, especially RNA viruses like this one.
Yeah.
When a person goes around infected with it, it replicates in the respiratory tract. Every time it does, around a half a dozen genetic mutations occur. When Zhaolu Tang at Peking University in Beijing and colleagues studied the viral genome taken from 103 cases, they found common mutations at 2 locations on the genome. They identified 2 types of the virus based on differences in the genome at these 2 regions. 72 were considered to be the L type, and 29 were classified the S type. And I guess the L type is more prevalent, says more aggressive than the S type. So
it's all RNA, right?
Yeah, and so it's one of them was tougher on people like this. You said the one that people survive from, it spreads more, but it's not as lethal.
Right.
All right. Does anybody know Jeff McAmey? Small-C-K-A-M-E-Y. He's doing his own research on the virus here. He said there were more deaths a couple of weeks in February 2020 than there were in all of January, February, and March of the past 3 years. According to him, there were quite a number of refinery workers who got sick in February, but none were tested for the virus, so it was just assumed they had the flu. I talked to Brad Tyndall at the Yacht Club night before last. We were enjoying chicken fried
you're
nail
waiting tables
guy.
there, were you?
Huh?
You're waiting tables there, were you?
No, I was. Well, I went with Hummel.
Oh.
So I was eating chicken fried nail guy with Brother Dave, Colleen, and Pamela. Brad got real sick. Brad Tyndall earlier in February. It lasted 3 or 4 days. He got it from his boss, who was in his 70s, and his boss had it for 2 weeks. They've had refinery people coming in and out of their business all the time, so they think they may have gotten it from one of those. Hearing this makes me think the whole thing is overblown. And like Tyler brought up this morning, one of the doctors on TV yesterday said certain blood types are more susceptible to this. People have higher incidence of the virus is type A.
I didn't know that.
Type O, I'm not telling you to go start shaking hands with people and to stick your hands in your mouth, but I'm just saying.
I'm type O positive, so
yeah.
I'm A, so I'm going to die.
Mm-hmm. You are?
I'm type A. Yep.
Well, then you're going to have to be careful. And
why would it be the refinery? Just because there's more people in tight spaces, or maybe through the port?
Through the port.
They have a lot of visitors who travel from out of state.
Yeah. I sent you a link on a couple of things last night, Tyler.
You about 5 pages worth of stuff.
The Washington Examiner reported late yesterday, new chief of U.S. Border Patrol has drawn a line in the sand handling over illegal immigrant criminals to sanctuary cities. He's not doing that anymore. Rodney Scott was named chief in January. Said even those wanted for murder won't be handed over if they won't be returned to federal officials to be reported. He said his job is to protect the United States, secure the borders, not to get prosecution. So we're deporting people that have active warrants because the state will not give back that person to us, and we have to pick federal law or state law. I get the feeling that Democrat prosecutors don't care about crime by illegals because the victims are poor and I guess usually Hispanic. They would rather crack down on the felonious plastic straw distribution and peddling single-use bags. Right. And there was one on your doorstep this morning, Blake.
Well, I very rarely have had bags in my yard.
It was a Walmart bag.
But the one time that they were about to do the vote on the bag ban, there were like 4 in my front yard. I think there's somebody driving around town throwing out bags to spike that debate.
I had the same thought
all over the
myself.
They're stick on palm trees and grass. They're everywhere.
They're
like the island bird.
We have a really good track record with viruses. Ask Mr. Polio. And just I have my own experience with this because I had polio when I was young, and I had the privilege of wearing braces, and I'm standing in line with the rest of my schoolmates because the county was giving polio shots in the school. They used to do that back then. And I asked that, their teachers are monitoring you in the hall to cut down that talking. No talking in line, no talking. Get it. And I said, why do I have to take a shot? I've already got it.
Right.
Shut up.
It left a little ring on your arm,
Just
right?
No, that was smallpox
No,
vaccine.
that's smallpox.
Okay.
They made me take the shot anyway.
Yeah.
But that's
Really?
Yes, that's government thinking for you.
Was that the Salk vaccine, Jonas Salk, right?
Yeah.
Say, polio was horrible. People don't realize. Remember the iron lung? All those iron lung kids.
Yes, I do.
I don't remember, but that I can't imagine that more horrible. Well, I guess smallpox is pretty horrible, but that was a big deal.
I was next to my doctor's son, who was in an iron lung, and the nuns in my grandmother's neighborhood would come and do the therapy that I needed, and it was really painful because they would twist and do your legs, and so your muscles wouldn't atrophy. Yeah, and it was painful, and that kid who was like 2 years older than I was, I'm 5 at this time, was egging the nuns on, telling them to do that, and he was telling me I was going to be all right, and he was never going to get out of that iron lung, and it was just really tragic.
People now don't realize how horrible, miserable
they don't.
They had a facility in King William in San Antonio for polos. It was run by the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
it's a restaurant now. I won't say the name.
Make sure to stop there. The Iron Lung, famous for its good chicken fried steak.
I was supposed to be at a wedding this weekend at the Hotel Emma in the Pearl up there, and everything got
that's an expensive.
Canceled all that.
Half of the people were coming from L.A. and the other half were coming from the Boston, New York area. So
negative ghostwriter.
Yeah, it got thrown under the bus.
Can you imagine if you had your wedding booked here and you spent all this time and effort for your big day and your family can't come?
That's what happened here. These guys, the bride and groom live in Hollywood, and they came in 4 or 5 times planning this thing. We went up there and they're, getting the menu and the dresses and all of that stuff, and then 2 weeks out, boom, everybody starts canceling.
You can't even get a marriage license until they get the plexiglass put up here in Nueces County.
Well, if you've already made plans for your wedding, you pretty much got the marriage license, right? All you have to do is call a preacher if you were
they're going to
do it that way, and get them to get on the telephone, and then you conference call, and you can get married on the telephone.
Oggs can do it.
Oggs can do that.
Oggs can marry people. He's a
he can.
He has. Yeah, he sure.
And I've considered running for justice of the peace and then do weddings as a side hustle.
They still do that. A lot of JPs do that.
They do.
Well,
I guess I could become an internet preacher. By the power invested in me by the internet, I now pronounce you man and wife.
First Church, what's happening now? There's a lot of those. I think it's $75. You get online, and that's kind of the trendy thing now. You get your friend to marry you. They go.
Dr. Bruce Nelson.
Yeah,
he did weddings. He had one of those doctors.
I actually know a couple of people that do weddings on the beach. They take photography and all that stuff. Do the whole package. These guys, in this case, the couple is going to go down to the L.A. County Courthouse and just go ahead and get married, I think, and then just throw a party later on. If you cancel the wedding, you lose in this case, it was about $35,000 deposit.
Yeah.
The only way you
do?
Well, if you cancel it, but if you postpone it, then you can go back and do it later, and you get it back if the hotel cancels it, but they're not going to cancel it.
I would think
they may have to cancel it.
I would think.
You'd think the San Antonio is a little bit to the left of Corpus Christi. You'd think their city council might be a little bit more.
I don't know what the rule is there. It just kind of came up all of a sudden. Everything's going along. And
you have to read the force majeure
2
clause.
weeks, it's a different world.
What is your opinion, Dale, about Lago's on the side? It's like this is way overblown, and Blake and I are like, you lose if you. I mean, you got to pretty much play it safe.
Well, if you do nothing and you're wrong, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
But and I've seen numbers that came out of, I don't remember which agency now, but they're predicting an infection rate 40 to 70%. That's 150 million people. So all we got to do is wait and see. We're going to know.
Flatten the curve.
There's no reason to speculate because we're about to find out one way or the other.
Yeah, but are you going to? There's no way you'll ever know if all of these drastic measures that we have taken had any success at all, or if it would have worked out the same. I mean, I don't see a way you'll be able to scientifically measure the effect of this.
They can model this stuff. I mean, there's modeling for it. I was looking at the growth curves for China and Italy. We're kind of in between the two. We're on the start of the curve. We're not very far along.
Well, I've always said there are two ways to lie: one with words and one with math.
Well, they had, Mayor McComb said this. It was a good point. We don't live like they do in Italy or China. We're not stacked on top of each other so much.
And one of the reasons it got so bad in Italy is because the open borders thing they had with the textile industry, the Silk Road of those textile mills that China was importing workers and stacking them on top of each other in northern Italy. So their outbreak pretty much matched what China's is. And that is on the decline right now.
The Italy, the death rate has been so high. This is what caught my attention. There's 400 people or something die in a day over there. And so I was looking around on the internet, and what I found, and I don't know how scientific this is, they're still, if you show up at the hospital with symptoms, they let you in. So it's a collection point. Whereas here, I was at a meeting over the weekend, and the announcement was if you have symptoms, don't go to the ER. Because all that's you just give it to everybody else.
No, when I was going to visit my sister, there's a security guard desk set up right inside the door to the hospital, and he asked me 3 screening questions to determine whether or not he was going to let me into the hospital.
What were those, if you don't mind?
Do you have insurance?
That was probably not the first one.
No, it's like he asked about symptoms. He asked if I'd travel abroad or if I'd been in contact with anybody with the coronavirus. And my answer to that was not to my knowledge.
Right.
I mean, you don't know if you've been exposed to somebody with the coronavirus. And in a lot of cases, you're standing in line to get in HEB and the person behind you has it. You don't know that.
Yeah. I think at this point, answer your question, I'm just kind of taking a wait and see attitude. I don't know enough about this stuff to have much of an opinion.
Well, standing in line at HEB, Blake, let's clear this up. They've got hand sanitizer at the cash register, and you're not face to face.
But if you're standing in line before they open, I mean, there was a line 2 blocks long to get into Sam's Club yesterday morning.
Yeah.
And that's more than 10 people.
Don't touch your face. Wash your hands.
And don't touch the person next to you.
It's not like you've got to buy some expensive product to help you get through this misery.
All right, well, find me some hand sanitizer. I've got half a bottle left.
Wash your hands. What?
No, where am I going to wash my hands standing in line to get into a grocery store?
You can do it when you get home.
Is there still no hand sanitizer in stores? I've
No.
got the same bottle I've had. Huh.
They've got them out in different places at HEB. But again, if you see a line, maybe you ought to tell yourself, don't
get in it.
Yeah, don't get in it.
HEB's always had those sanitized wipes.
Yeah, I didn't see those the other day.
They had them at one on Saratoga. I went in there and they had actually wiped down the
cart
in my hands, and then you have to touch the thing to get the sanitizer out. It's not one of those things like you go in the bathroom and it goes.
Yeah, but you touch the thing to get the sanitizer out, then you sanitize your hands, so it's not like a big deal.
And then you're like you've just scrubbed in for an operation.
Well, we do the same things usually. People going into a public bathroom will try to wash their hands. The strange thing is they've got 2 spigots there, and they're both hooked up to cold water. Hot water is the only thing that's going to kill the germs. The soap just makes it possible for you to wash the germs off your hands.
Yeah, the soap lubricates them to the point they slide off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then you have to turn off the water by touching the thing that you touched before you washed your hands.
That's exactly the point. You touch the doorknob and you go,
once again, I'm the guy that uses the paper towel to open the
Me
doorknob.
too.
In some cases, but what are you doing? They've only got the air dryers.
Okay, Randy Cross says Dale needs to speak up. He doesn't mean like talk. He means your level or. So these mics aren't so.
I'll turn Dale up a little bit.
Everybody's a producer, right, Scott?
Exactly.
No, it's a great.
No,
thing.
it's Randy Cross. He's he's
Randy.
hearing us then, so he's not having the issue with the
here's
streaming.
the deal. Everybody on is sort of producing, directing, and giving content. This not to steal from the commercials I've been seeing. Best thing since sliced bread.
If you could find bread. Yeah, this is what I was showing Dale. We had Missy Maderi saying, hey, jury duty's off till April 20th. Where are you going to do that? I mean, they're not doing that on the game show on TV right now.
Well, I can see why you wouldn't. I mean, that jury room is packed. I was down there about a year ago, and you're packed in there like sardines. There's about, 400 or 500 people in there?
We've got people joining us on the Facebook page. Pamela is up and joining us. Diane McCallan, good morning. Kimberly Curtis, former Nueces County chairperson. Good morning, Kimberly. My daughter Jordan, Ted Mandel, is giving us all kinds of good information. Americans crossing into Mexico to buy toilet paper.
Well, all of our Canadians got recalled a few days ago.
Yeah.
They got a call and said they had to go home, so the Winter Texans all went back north.
Good morning to Terry Arnold, the police chief's wife, Debbie Markle. Mark Sandoval joined us. Wendy Herman, you need to have an appointment to get a test. Don't forget that. Judge Missy Maderi is with us. Rebecca Robertson. Chuck Daffron, good to hear another familiar voice talking about you, Dale. Carol Jenkins Fields. Missy Maderi, the judge. Public service announcement. Jury duty is canceled through April the 20th by the Board of Judges. Emergency and essential hearings will still proceed. Good morning to Josh Rogers, Jason Taylor, Mike Riley. Good morning, sir. Vincente Vera, Terry Gray, Barrett Fines has joined us. Cynthia Van Zant Turner. Had a nice conversation with her. I said, "Are you related to the singer-songwriter Van Zant family?"
Right.
And she said, "No, I used to pass him off as my brother, and my father would get really angry." They're
from Fort Worth area.
Yeah. Hey, Dale. Trevor Firkin, Patrick Kiesnick, and Gary Ferry. My old friend Stan Bryant is on with us this morning. Joe Valencia, Barbie Baker, Randall Poma, Carlos Lopez, Christina Holmes West, our good friend L.J. Cohen. You know, I miss L.J. not being in town. I think he spends way too much time at his ranch. Michael Miller, Mark Nichols, Mark Edward Tyler, Efren Arriaga, Randy Kohler. Terry Gray says it's hard to model something when you can't or won't test people. We'll never know the true numbers. And then we get to Randy telling you to correct your microphone technique.
Well, where was it I read? Was it early on in China? One of the countries, I forget, it may have been Italy. They put out a camera with a thermal sensor, and if you went by and had a fever, they just grab you.
That's what they were doing in Las Vegas at the Wynn Resorts.
Really?
Yeah, they had if you tested over 100.4, Vito would tell you to take a hike, and you weren't welcome. And then they shut down Vegas for 30 days. The whole casino.
There's Chuck Dafford said 10% bleach, 90% water will kill your germs.
That wouldn't taste very good.
We'll all smell like we're trying to cover up a murder scene, but
You need to get the fresh scent Clorox.
It'll work.
I was heartbroken when I found out that Purple Fabuloso is not a disinfectant. I thought for sure.
Well, those the baby wipes are they not?
I don't know.
No.
I know on the can of Lysol it says good for the coronavirus.
Stan Bryan sent an address how to make your own hand sanitizer, but you need ethanol for that, or you can use Everclear. Liquidtown would love to see you come in and get some Everclear today.
So going back to what you were saying earlier at the refineries, is there a way to go back and test and see if that was the coronavirus?
That's what I was going to ask.
I think so. They could. But the thing about the coronavirus is, and the things that they've got to slow it down, it doesn't kill the virus. It just keeps it from multiplying. That's a little bit different.
They were saying that some people test positive, a month later, still afterwards.
So they could go back and test those guys and see if that's what they had.
Because that's the big rumor. People are going like, that cough that wouldn't go away that you had in January or December?
Yeah.
Have you seen the? I don't know. It's probably rumor stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, people did have a lot of the flu. I mean, the flu was going around.
It's been a terrible allergy season. I was just up in Wimberley, Dripping Springs, and it's the worst. You can see it on everything. That yellow, that pollen, and I feel it down here. I can tell when it's cedar and when it's oak pollen. And
that oak pollen's all over my truck yesterday.
Yeah.
I washed it.
Yeah.
Good morning to Jacob Oggs.
Speaking of marriage guy, hey, Heidi Elliott is listening day 4 from the siege in Puerto Rico. Hi, Heidi.
Phyllis Freeman, Heidi Elliott, listening from day number 4 lockdown in Puerto Rico.
Well, Phyllis is up in somewhere south of San Antonio. She moved up there from the island.
Chico, got my text for jury duty. Joe Kellum Gardner and Chris Holly joined. I got a notification from an old program director yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was a good guy.
I bet you gave hell.
An iHeart guy?
No. This was the guy who hired me at Kilt.
Houston?
Yeah. Chris Collier. Just
what's happening out at the old station? Have you talked to anybody?
No.
No?
There's practically nobody left.
Yeah, they had a little bloodletting in that company.
Yes, they did. The thing that really bothered me was one of the guys there was escorted to the door like he would steal something. And I thought, that's adding insult to injury.
That's the old television way. I worked at a station where you find out that you were fired when you went to the back door and swiped your card and the door wouldn't open. And hit the buzzer and go, hey, my car's not well. You need to come around to the front. You get around there and all your stuff is in a box.
I remember that, getting escorted out of KWTX FM after, but they let me work my 2 weeks. I gave them 2 weeks notice, but after the end, here's your stuff, all your stuff from your office. I'm thinking,
I've never been escorted from.
Well, they would escort
building.
people out. They would have. Yeah. I've seen contract negotiations when the security guard from the front would come stand outside the news director's office because the news director told him you're going to have to get this guy out of the building.
Really?
Yeah.
I was asked to.
I knew one time this news director that he had a guy that one of the reporters, his contract was up. So they go to lunch, and when the check comes, the news director gets alligator arms. So the reporter picks up the check. They get back to the station. They walk up to the back door, and the reporter puts his card in the door. And the door won't open, and the news director says, well, I like you, son, but not enough to keep you. And put his card in the door and walked in, left the guy standing out there. The security guard came and got him, took him to the front of the building. Here's all your stuff. Now get the heck out of here.
That's pretty common with media.
Yeah. Well, you never fire somebody and then say, okay, you can do your 2 weeks on the air.
No, because they'll
television,
get
man.
They'll get mad and say something.
We had
about you.
a rite of passage at a station I used to work at in West Palm. We had a town called Titusville right up the road. Titusville. Well, every time somebody back in production would quit, they'd put a super up there and they'd leave the U out. So anytime somebody was about to leave in production, you had to go stand in front of the chroma key machine and watch it as it's coming out, or it's going right on the air.
Brother. Efren Arriaga Jr., very curious about what will transpire after the drive-through testing that begins today. I suspect we'll identify cases locally. I'm praying for the local leadership, many difficult decisions ahead of them with long-standing repercussions for business and citizens alike.
Now, I'd heard a rumor yesterday that we had a confirmed case, and I went online and checked all the news sources, and I hadn't seen it.
Well, wasn't there a death in Matagorda?
Yep.
There's been 2, maybe more. There was one in Fort Worth also yesterday. In my old stomping grounds, Waco, they had 5 confirmed cases of coronavirus, and 2 out of the 5 were from Baylor professors that had gone to New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you got to believe it's here. I mean, we got a lot of visitors coming in and out of here.
Oh, yeah. Cynthia Van Zandt Turner. Saw something on Tucker Carlson. The plasma in your blood can show if you had it and may prove to be a key to a solution.
That was the deal we were talking. You can use the antibodies in some people's plasma.
Right.
It's not, it's not going to cure them, but it kind of staves off the bad stuff for a while. So that could be the key to like seeing if these folks at the refinery had something prior to that. But
we need to get somebody from the port industries or refinery or construction on here. I mean, how do they do those safety meetings where they crowd all those people in every day to do the safety briefings? I don't know if you've ever been to one of those.
I have.
And, they have a small room, and they crowd everybody in to do the morning safety briefing. I mean, there are a lot of things involved with the construction, all that construction that's going on that is potentially, what are they doing?
I know, but there's, in order to slow some of that stuff down, too, and I would like to get somebody from the port on, but, the repercussions of some of the heavy-handedness that's gone on. I mean, when you
maybe we'll get somebody from like the one of the port industries on, or get somebody from get Mike Scott or somebody from Repcon or one of those folks.
Yeah, Sharon Custer said we joined us. John Michael is back on, and listen to this. Cynthia Van Zandt Turner. Ted and I had an armed officer at the tax appraisal review. I thought it was because we were from the island.
Probably was.
I've done that little dance in front of them before.
Of all the places you might need a security officer, I'm thinking the appraisal district might fall into that category.
Yeah.
Probably nobody leaves there happy, do they?
I've gone twice, and everything worked out fine. Yeah. I didn't have any problems. I thought they were really very understanding.
They backed off your appraisal, or they?
Well, yeah. They said, "Oh, we didn't know that."
Well,
so the Brian Johnson, the company I work for, is still working at normal paces. That's a general contractor.
And he's up in the Northwest in Mount Vernon, Washington.
Michael Miller, smaller groups, video conferencing, and some going as far as safety detectors on boom lifts, talking through a bullhorn at groups spaced 10 feet apart.
Well, you got to do something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, where's all this going? I mean, how long are we going to do this? Is this how it's going to be forever?
Well, they're saying 15 days, but the real whispers are it's going to go on
8 weeks at least.
7 weeks, but because it's normally a 7-week cycle. That's what I heard in the beginning, but now they're saying 10 because we were kind of late to the game with the lockdown stuff. So still, that's 2 months. I mean, that puts you, well into the summer season.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, what I'm seeing on the island is more as the schools are let out, I'm seeing more people turning up on the beach. There are more people on the beach yesterday than I saw the previous week during spring break.
Well, I'm ready for this to be over. I don't want the new normal to be that I can't shake hands with somebody or I can't throw a party with 50 of my friends, or I can't hug an old friend that I haven't seen in months. That is not a new normal that I want.
Well, nobody does. But for crying out loud, how many times wash your hands? And if you've got a dry cough or you've got fever or a headache, stay at home or tell your friends, hey, I may have it. Back up.
They say the best advice is to assume everyone has it. I don't want to live that way, but
I'm not going to live that way.
That's what they're saying.
If I'd have done that, I wouldn't have
done anything.
Been able to eat chicken fried nail guy at the yacht club Tuesday night. And brother, but it was worth going in there and asking somebody to sneeze on me.
But the damage of all this. Where do you think you're going to be with your business? All the businesses on the island.
I don't know.
You canceled Beach to Bay. That's 20,000 people.
Yeah,
they had some place to stay.
I got
and
an
eat.
announcement in this week. I'm talking out of school because I'm about to go pick up the paper. But Waves is closing as of tomorrow.
What?
Well, they said they were closed for the rest of till through the end.
Schlitter Waves.
Yeah, I saw that in.
They're closed there, and I guess they're closing the driving range too. I've been going over there.
Oh, I used to like going over there to that because that's the only place you could pound
but there,
balls.
I don't know what it's going to do to those types of businesses. I mean, the restaurants are still open, the bars are still open, so most of the retail is there. I don't know.
What about places like Scuttlebutts? It's pretty tough to separate inside there. They don't have an outside.
I ate there a couple of days ago, and it was, it's business as usual. The thing is, if they quarantine us in place, we don't have a grocery store yet. It's coming up out of the ground, but it's not ready to. It's not open yet.
Look, we have been through this in our lifetimes. I brought up the Spanish flu this morning. There was the pandemic in 1919 and 1920. We had one in 1958. That H1N1 virus was just in 2009. People got sick. Some people died. But both of those were accepted as part of human life. And, life continued. Today, everything is, oh, my God, it's the end of the world. And seemingly as never before, this supposedly serious media has become a very clear and articulated agenda. People are what they are, and based on what they are taught or untaught, experienced, saturated with, this is how some things are going to be until it changes people. We talked a bit about this yesterday. World War I changed people. World War II, the Great Depression. We had victory gardens. If the world had reacted differently, I think it would have changed the course of history. I think this is going to turn out to be another virus, just like the swine flu and all that other stuff. It's flu season. There's always a new strain of it.
Yeah, they said that they're never going to be able to eradicate this one, that it's going to always be out there, and you'll have, like now you have a cold and flu season, you'll have cold, flu, and coronavirus. It's just going to be out there. The interesting thing about the Spanish flu, it started in Kansas, and it got named the Spanish flu because Spain at the time was neutral in World War I. The American soldiers took it to Europe, but the reason it became called the Spanish flu is because you had restricted media in all of the countries except Spain because they were neutral. So the Spanish media jumped on it and said, hey, we got this problem. People are dying. So it got the name of the Spanish flu, even though that really wasn't where it came from or even the worst, the hardest hit country. So it's all, at some point, perception becomes reality, I guess, right?
Yeah, it is.
I just, at some point you got to figure there's going to be a vaccine, right? And a year out, something like that. I mean,
this one mutates so much, but we always have it's always a crapshoot with the flu viruses. Because which one do you think it's going to be? Well, let's count on it being this one.
Last year's.
Yeah.
The only time I ever got the flu, I took the vaccine. I was living in West Palm, and man, I got really sick from it.
You got sick from the injection?
Well, I got it. I got the flu, and it was bad. It was really bad. I went home and passed out on my floor in my suit, laid there for about 24 hours till my boss came looking for me.
I haven't slept in my clothes, especially a suit, in a long time.
Well,
It wasn't from
West
being the
Palm
flu.
was a little bit like, if there's a flu bug anywhere in the world in the wintertime, it's going to arrive there because there's people from all over the world coming in there.
Yeah.
And we've got a little bit of that here, but more from the state,
Yes, we're a driving destination.
Yeah. So I at this point, man, it's all speculation about what it's going to do, to the tourist industry. I got a thing from the CVB I'm running this time. They're trying to figure out how that's all going to play out,
Well, it's going to be slow recovery because we're always going to err on the side of caution. But that story of the Diamond Princess, the flu boat, that was in mid-February. And I thought then that having all those people in one place, quarantined, would be a good opportunity to study what that was. The patient zero, as they call him, was on board January the 20th through the 25th. He wasn't diagnosed until February the 1st, and in those 5 days, he spread the virus. In the next week, the situation was like, well, people were unaware that they were spewing virus germs on each other, and it was a worst-case scenario. But here's the reality of the situation. It's a lot less scary. I mean, if you're one of the people who dies, it's really serious to you and your family. I understand that. I'm talking about the detached, passive scientist voice here, because on that flu boat, 83.9% of the passengers never got the disease.
That's pretty impressive because you're all cooped up in there, the air circulating through all the cabins.
Exactly.
They isolated them in their cabins, didn't they? Once they realized something was going on.
Oh,
but they let them eat at a buffet or something. Wasn't that the one where they let them go eat in a buffet?
So 17% of the passengers were infected, and again, the oldest portion of the passengers, over 80 years old, had a higher infection rate, 25%, and that's not even twice the rate of the general population. And it gets better. Slightly less than half the passengers, or 49%, who tested positive for the disease did not get sick and showed no symptoms. They never knew it. The young, under 20, and the old, over 50, disproportionately showed no symptoms after being affected.
At this stage of the game, I think back to what your point earlier, Blake, I think they will be able to tell how much good the precautions did. I don't know how, but I'm sure there's a methodology for that. It may not be exact science, but you're going to be able to see, you should be able to see the rate of spread and correlate it with the precautions that were taken and come to some kind of a conclusion, I think.
What do you think the economic stimulus thing is going to be? Is that going to be like $1,000 an adult?
That's what they're saying.
Well, because all these people displaced, the hotel workers, like we're saying, the other industries involved with
service
tourism.
Industry people.
Yeah, I mean, people that can't work from home to go. People can't work because they're kids. I mean, unless it's $1,000, you can't pay your mortgage or
rent. It's not very much. I was talking to somebody about that last night. I mean, we all know people who don't need to be handed $1,000,
right?
It'll be a boom for the crack cocaine industry.
They light their cigars with $1,000.
Well, I brought this up yesterday. I talked to a couple of law enforcement officers, and I called a Border Patrol agent, and most of the chemicals that are used to extract the cocaine from coca leaves. Over 90% of that comes from China. The same thing, the chemicals for methamphetamine and heroin, pharmaceutical companies in China. Those distribution points and the supply on that is tantamount to what's happening with toilet paper. So addicts are going to be suffering a shortage of being able to steal something and get their hands on their next meth fix. So panhandling is going to become more aggressive, and ladies, you need to look around your car in the evening hours or dark before you get out of it.
Situational awareness. Always assume, look behind when you go out to your parked car. Look for feet on the other side.
Well, this is positive news to me. Of the 3,700 passengers on that flu boat, 7 people died.
Man, I saw a thing yesterday.
They were there for a month.
Yeah. In Iran, the flu bug got into their ruling council, and our satellite images and I don't know if it's just the Shia or if it's Muslim in general, but I should know this, but you can't be married, you can't be buried with someone that's not in your immediate family, but our satellite imagery is showing big trenches.
And you have to be buried like in a day, right?
Yeah, so they're showing big common graves, so there's something, and the guy who's the main ruler hasn't been seen for some time, so there's all kinds of speculation.
Well, that it makes you wonder, lead poisoning, or did somebody just slit his throat? The thing that's encouraging about this, 83% of the people that were aboard that flu boat didn't get infected, and they were exposed 24/7 and could have been. 7 deaths out of 3,711 people is a 0.19 fatality rate. I looked this up last night. The number for the annual flu is 0.1%. I don't know if that compares more directly to those raw numbers, but think about this. 3,711 people were in a virtual Petri dish, an incubator for the virus, and there's every reason to think they were all at risk. Like you said, with the ventilation system.
Like you're on an airplane, it's like, it's like back when they had smoking on airplanes. Oh, here, I'll get into a non-smoking session. I'll be fine.
I always sit in the smoking section. It was more fun.
They had a Japanese infection disease expert that went on board the Diamond Princess flu boat, and they were talking about how poorly they implemented their quarantine. And the fact is that 83% never got the disease. Doesn't that hint, at least, it may not be as communicable as everyone fears? And it seems like the younger you are, the better your chances.
Well, that's true.
If you're young and have O positive, you're golden.
And you never leave your house.
Well, I'm pretty bad about, okay, I said yes, I'd go, but I got to think up something.
The closer you get to the event, the more likely you are to want to find an excuse. And we will come back with some more here in just a second.
You practice, you prepare, and you compete. But being a teammate means much more than working together for the win, especially when it comes to player safety. This includes concussions. There's simply no denying that these are serious brain injuries that call for serious precaution. Every game and every practice, you need to be following one simple rule with concussions. When in doubt, sit it out. It's up to all of us, not just players, but coaches and parents. Let's keep our head in the game, and when in doubt, sit it out.
Recording artist Kevin Fowler.
Oh, I love the sound of fast boats racing, rooster tails are flying high. Love to hear all my riding friends rocking, howling at the full moonlight. Love to see those fireflies buzzing, lighting up the southern sky. Yeah, I'm a hell-bent 100% Texan till I die. Like lots of 100% Texans, I love having a good time on the water. But remember, nobody's waterproof. Play it safe. Wear a life jacket and designate a driver for the boat and for a safe ride home. Follow these tips and there'll be a lot more days for you to play in this great state of Texas. Nobody's waterproof, yeah, that's a hell-bent truth, and you know it ain't no lie.
Sponsored by Texas Parks and Wildlife.
We first opened about 10 years ago.
We're small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans, but in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Your local neighborhood radio, Lago in the Morning with Blake Tyler, owner, publisher of the Island Moon. Dale Rankin is with us. And I keep thinking you guys are backing me into a corner here, but the more I learn about this Wuhan flu, the less concerned I am about it. Just wash your hands. I didn't get a caller times this morning. I guess they were busy printing up too many copies of the Island Moon.
Yeah, we're at 9,500 copies this week, I think.
What were you? What were the major stories?
We had some island stuff. I did. We had some additions to the Island Strategic Action Committee. We had a big POA, the annual POA board meeting last week. So I had that. I have a. Stuff from our columnist, Dr. Tom, about the flu bug, basically along the lines of what you're saying, is don't everybody panic and run for the hills. I also did
Dr. Tom said that?
Tom Durrell, that's the guy I was telling you.
Yeah.
He's my
He's been on the island forever.
Yeah.
And,
big fisherman, too.
Yeah. And another thing, the comptroller came out this week with the property values for all of the local school districts. And so I did a by the numbers thing on those. And there's a couple of surprises in there. The CCISD is at, I'm going from memory, I think it was 30 million, something like that, in taxable property. But the second highest one in the area is Gregory Portland, $5 billion.
Yeah. That didn't surprise me. And you did that sidebar by the numbers, right?
And they're being slick about it too, because a lot of the income GP gets are, especially with this Exxon plant coming in, is going to not be tax income, but it's going to be under these economic development agreements.
It doesn't count against your Robin Hood.
It doesn't count against your Robin Hood. It is going to be a very rich school district.
Yeah.
Oh, I went over there
to Plano.
Kick off of the when they opened the TIPCO plant. That's been some years ago now. And they made the statement then that by 2022 that the GP would have a budget almost as large as CCISD. So they could absorb all of the students from CCISD and still keep going because of the money they've got coming in. But, you know, it's every time I drive over there, I went up the back way to Aransas Pass a couple of weeks ago. It's like every time you go, there's twice as much stuff as there was the last time.
Yeah.
You know, it's just coming up out of the ground everywhere.
Well, you know, the same thing could be said for the island. I hadn't been out there in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they've got these storage bins stacked up, and it's a restaurant, cafe, coffee house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's been up there for a while. And now we've got a Starbucks that's about to open. And there's the grocery store it's coming right on up out of the ground. And there's Hard Knocks is coming in there. And they're talking to Denny's. We've always needed a diner on the island, so we'll see.
Denny's?
Denny's, yeah. Out in front of there.
They're going to make it possible for you never to cross the bridge.
If we just need a grocery store. That's our
You
problem.
need a home, not to diss Denny's, but a true diner is
like a Price's Chef or something.
A Price's Chef or a Town and Country or what's the Andy's Kitchen.
Yeah, well, they have to survive wintertime, but winter's been pretty good.
Fishermen are out there all hours of the day.
Yeah,
that is the beauty of Denny's is 24/7.
That's the bad part about Denny's. It's 24/7.
After the
bars
Denny's
close.
only sounds good about 2:30 in the morning to me.
I used to live next door to a Denny's.
I don't mean to diss Denny's, and I've actually eaten lunch there before, but Denny's hits the spot about 2:30. I am not a 2:30 person anymore.
Overnight Waffle House. There's some stories.
There is no Waffle House in this town. That's what we need instead of the Denny's is a Waffle House.
Whatever gets built on the island, you need to have the contractor that does the Dollar General stores. They put those suckers up in about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They have like preformed concrete that they know they all have the same square footage, and they just slap them up.
Something like that. Well, one of the things that's surprising, with the island, you have people from all different walks of life that end up there. They got ready to hire a manager for the grocery store, and it turns out there are 3 retired people on the island whose job it was to open up grocery stores for chains. So they hired one of the guys to run the grocery store. He's opened 35 stores or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Jim Lavelle, Eurotech, Foundation Repair.
Yeah.
Used to be in the grocery business.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we had Clyde Smith he had a chain called Smitty's all through Arizona. He tried to open a grocery store on the island and couldn't get the traffic light in, which we now have. So he got mad and sold all his property and moved to Bernie.
That was a shame because it's right there where the construction is going on now. And they had everything graded off, and he just had enough money to pull a plug and say, give him the, yeah.
Yeah. And so they and I won't go into details, but I was told this week that OSHA was called out there, and they went out to the grocery store, and these guys were up on scaffolding, and they weren't, I don't know, didn't have a hard hat or whatever it was, or it was raining or something, and somehow or another, it came out. Well, who made the complaint? Well, potential competition. Just put it that way.
Throw them under the bus.
Oh God!
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Well, you know what's going to happen. The first day that grocery store is open, they're going to there'll be people going through there with tablets marking down the prices of every item, and then you'll have a sale across the bridge.
It's always going to be more expensive on the island.
Oh, well, there's a rumor too. It's been going around for a while that the old was it Spawn Building? That could be turned into like a neighborhood grocery store, but
that's pretty small.
Yeah, but if you did it as a satellite, the IGA is only 20,000 square feet.
Well, that's the Spawn Building's on the way back over to town. So why would you stop and shop? Because you can't turn around.
I don't know. Huh. That thing's been sitting there empty for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I know a couple of people have tried to get in there, and they can't get any traction.
Well, when I got my Island Moon back the first of the month, Island grocery store going up, water park ride coming down.
Right. Yeah, I watched them take that thing down. They had a giant crane over there. It's pretty cool. They took it apart in pieces, just pulled it right out of there. Took them about 3 days.
What are they going to do with the pieces?
I don't know. They piled them up in a vacant lot, and I hadn't noticed to see if they're still there. That was one of those rides that Jeff Henry built, and it was open for a short time, a couple of weeks or something.
Yeah.
I think. But it was. I actually saw the engineering report on that thing, and it was not pretty.
The turnout on the island for you had the results in the March 5th edition of the Island Moon.
Mm-hmm.
How the island voted, and it was it was a record breaker.
I brought a copy of that. Well, because I watched those numbers fairly closely. Well, I thought I brought a copy of it. I guess I didn't.
One of the things that really concerned me, Judge Guy Williams running for office. I just thought Missy Maderi got 82% of the vote.
Yeah.
Guy Williams got 18.
Right. Well, one of the things that jumped out at me going back to you go back to 4 years ago, the elections, the last 3 election cycles, we've had more Democrats vote in Nueces County than Republicans, which is the first time. If you go back to the Clinton years, it happened a couple of times, but really that was an anomaly. This is the first time you've seen it as a pattern where it's not based on people turning out for one candidate, as far as I can tell, back to about 96.
Well, how do you account for that guy living in California that got the Democrat nomination for Blake's old seat?
I don't know.
He lives in California.
You don't have to live in the district.
I know. To run.
Yeah.
But it just makes no sense that you know nothing about this guy.
Well, you had a guy running for constable that lived in San Antonio, too. He didn't make the runoff.
Yeah.
But I looked at the numbers. I did a story back about 6 weeks ago. I went and checked the registration numbers right before early voting started.
Right.
18,000 new registered voters in Nueces County in 2019. I went to a thing with Senator John Cornyn back in last fall, and he made the statement, he's on the ballot this time, he made the statement that in the last presidential race, I believe it was 8 million people voted in Texas. This time it's 11.5 million.
Yeah, some of that is population growth, but not all of it. The Democrats have a very active voter registration and get out the vote program going here in state of Texas.
When you look at the growth in the change in the patterns, where you're seeing the increased number of Democrats is right up the spine of the state, right up I-35. That's where the growth is.
It's in the urban areas.
Yeah,
and
the 16 largest counties had 33% increase in Democrat voters.
Lago, I think you said it best on your page the other day. If you die of the coronavirus, don't let me vote Democrat.
That's it. Unfortunately, somebody took that serious. How can you vote if you're dead?
Move to Clayburgh County.
Or Duval.
Your voting rights do not end at the grave, friend.
Or Duval.
Well, as recently as March the 5th, once upon a time, a beach not so far away, spring breakers swarmed to the beach north of Packery Channel between Zahn Road and Newport Pass.
Yeah.
Cheek to jowl, they lined the beach with tents, couches, giant bonfires, and bags of trash, most of which they left behind.
Couches, yeah. And the city came along to counter it. The first time they banned pit bulls only north of the Packery.
Yeah.
And they found out that breed bans are unconstitutional, so they banned dogs in general and snakes and whatever else you might have. And then they set up those 3 lanes when all the spring breakers went to Port Aransas. So Port Aransas said you can't drink on the beach after 6 o'clock. So here they all come back. It's 6:05. They head south. So I remember a few years ago, the beach got so crowded. They would do the one-way traffic where you'd go in at Newport Pass and come around. It got so crowded, it was like a rock concert. One car had to leave on the south end before another car got on the north end, and so all of a sudden everybody just bypasses that and just floods Port Aransas, and the traffic was backed up all the way to the JFK. We had at one point we had a traffic jam from the ferry landing to the JFK. It was one long continuous.
That was last week?
No, this was about 3 years ago. 3 or 4.
That was
like that.
That was the height of stuff. When you go for Sandfest, It was Rocky and Silver Guetta got married on the beach.
Yeah.
We got out there at 9 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock, you couldn't. The traffic out there to Port Aransas was backed up to past the Sandpiper and Seagull back towards the fire.
That was common. I mean, it was normal.
Yeah.
Halfway down the island, you'd be sitting in traffic. But I haven't seen that. I didn't see it last year, and I didn't see it this year.
I was surprised last Saturday. Jay and I popped over and went over to Aug's house and had barbecue at 3:30. You've never been able to do that before. And even getting back, used to be, we'd always say, as long as you get out to the island before noon or whenever the kids wake up and go drink and go buy beer or whatever, you're fine. As long as you come back like 5 or so, you're kind of okay too. But maybe different now, and everything's different.
I didn't see it this year, and I didn't see it last year. You just don't see that many college kids on our beaches.
No, we've made a concerted effort to market our beaches as
families.
family-friendly beaches,
Yeah.
and the police actually patrol the underage drinking, which in some areas they don't, and so as a result, the partiers from college are going south of us.
Yeah. Yeah, they have. I was out there, Port Aransas last weekend, and you had DPS was all over the place. Of course, the constables are there, and the PD, and then you have the TABC guys come in. They were stopping every car that would come up and down the beach.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Right there at that one spot where people are leaving. I saw them write a ticket to 2 guys who were on those little motorized bicycles. I heard them going by. I had to turn around. They lit them up. They got them out there doing stupid human tricks.
Dale, do you watch Live PD on A&E?
Sometimes, yeah.
If you watched them pull over people on bicycles and all sorts of somebody converted their bicycle with a lawnmower engine and.
That's what these guys were. Well, if it's under 50 cc's, unless they've changed the law, you're legal. But all you got to do is take the decal off, and who knows what cc it is. Some of those. I have friends in Port A that have those things. They'll go 50, 60 miles an hour. I don't want to go that fast on a bicycle.
With a 3.5 horsepower.
These are electric. These are electric motors.
Oh, electric
motors.
And
you can put them on aftermarket, or you can buy them that are built into the frame. The ones built into the frame are fairly expensive, but you can there's a guy that in Port Aransas that'll put a motor on there for you for $100. Just order the motor offline, you put it on that bicycle, and you're off to the races.
All right, you're listening to Lago in the Morning with Blake and Tyler and Dale Rankin, owner, publisher of the Island Moon. Let me get to the web page. Michael Miller says most contractors making employees and subcontractors fill out forms with questions like, have you been to Italy or had a fever? The gun club is open.
Huh.
What's he talking about?
I don't know.
Is that
Corpus Christi, the gun club out there where you shoot skeet?
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was that or Aubrey Black's place. Tyler.
Oh, that's the Baffin Bay Gun Club.
Jacob Boggs, with all the people stuck at home, it's time for everyone to upgrade their art.
We went to his studio, right?
Yeah.
Saw the art for the CCA banquet, cover.
Henry Falcon is with us this morning. Good morning, Henry. Cynthia Van Zandt Turner. We ate at Burger Company, and all the usuals were there. That's on the island.
Yeah. That's right by my office.
Susan Massler Merkler. Good morning. Marge Simmons DeWitt, Kimberly Prowse, Linda Crump Edmonds, Robert Hendricks, Doug Weekly, Cheryl Vance Hibbets is good morning. Shane Zollicoffer, Jim Lavelle is with us with Eurotech Foundation Repair. Dennis Keaton, Eric Miller, John Barkowiak, and Hazel Pilgrim and Tyler.
So you can so the difference between doing this and the old terrestrial stick radio is who's out there.
Yeah,
and they can comment just by typing on Facebook, and it's actually, I think it works better than phone calls.
Yeah, it is, because there's no waiting and grabbing the phone. It makes it easier to interact with what they say. Hey, Deb, we can't hear you, so turn up your mic.
You're familiar with the negotiations, Dale, that we're going through. There's a radio station interested in us, but you've had some dealing with them in the past. Do you think that that's just a pretty shaky deal?
I've had good experience and bad experience with the same bunch. I don't know. It's been some years since I did that, but I don't know anymore enough about the business side of terrestrial radio to really understand what the business model is. So I don't know the difference between that and this. It seems to me
we're breaking new ground here.
Well, yeah, you got direct communication with your listeners. That's a game changer.
Our issue, I think, is advertising, because a lot of these sites like Facebook or other places we could go to stream this show have policies in place about embedded advertising, and we've got to make sure we comply with those. They all want you to come on and stream your stuff, but give your commercial avails to them, and they fill them with stuff they sell and give you a percentage of it.
Right. The other deal,
and relatively, low percentage considering we're doing all the work.
So if we play music as well on there, so we had, in fact, Blake got a copy of the national anthem sung by, it's not played by the Navy Orchestra, and Facebook says we think that you're copyright infringement, so they muted out that portion.
Really?
And so
there's no way to appeal it because the Navy band is a federal government employee operating in the scope and course of their employ and is by statute not copyrightable.
But I've seen other radio stations that play music stream their stuff on Facebook, and but the BMI ASCAP composers' rights get you in trouble with that.
53 seconds, right?
I don't even think it's that.
No, it is. You can't take a minute, but the artificial intelligence, since they sent all their people home, is going to block out, because of the filters, any music at all.
Yeah.
Now, you said they would block the content. So if I said Lago in the Morning with Blake and Tyler and Dale Rankin is brought to you this morning by Eurotech Foundation Repair. You want specialists, you want people that arrive with the right equipment and not a horse to raise your slab, call Eurotech, 885-7901. That's 885-7901. Eurotech Foundation Repair.
So we'll see if they cut that out.
Well, if they cut it out, it's just in the podcast. They can't cut it out here, can they?
I don't know.
Yeah, but they have a strike policy where they'll lock us out.
Oh,
yeah. Shame on you. Once, yeah.
So
they've got somebody that's going to listen to that.
I'm just telling you what their policies and community standards are. There are all sorts of hoops you've got to jump through on there.
Where the spring break that never ends. All right, the city-county health hotline is 826-7200. 826-7200. If you think you have symptoms of the Wang flu,
Wang Chung
flu, 361-826-7200. Remember, Water Street is doing takeout, and are they delivering?
They're working on it. I don't think
they're working on it.
Right.
Water Street, if you want some great seafood today, 881-9448, 881-9448, and the Surf Club is 884-7873. Go, Tyler.
They can bring us, I'm not sure about Water Street or Executive Surf Club, but Gregory Abbott signed an order to where the establishments, restaurants can send mixed drinks home.
I saw that.
And Blake and I were wondering if, maybe, the frozen margarita might make it. If they had it in a styrofoam cup, it probably would make it. Friday we'll have Bloody
What
Marys.
is the deal about a frozen margarita? I don't get it.
It's man.
How do you keep it from melting?
Well, styrofoam
You
cup.
drink it.
Oh, if they're delivering
Exactly.
it's a 10-minute drive from the surf club to my house.
I thought the whole romantic thing about margaritas was being able to lick the salt off the side of the glass and swallow it down.
You've been to Louisiana and you've been to those drive-through
I
daiquiri
have
houses, right?
never.
You have.
I don't do daiquiris.
I know you have.
Well, one of those is good enough for me. Well, I lived in the French Quarter for a while, just stumbling distance from Preservation Hall, and every morning I would walk out. It wasn't daiquiris; it was something red. Maybe it was a daiquiri, but it was in the gutter every day because people would get just that far, and I'm just going to leave it right here.
Yeah,
so after that, I never wanted anything red with alcohol.
I would imagine that would be the Hurricanes.
Yeah, that probably was.
No, that's not true. Because
it was a recycled Hurricane.
The only thing red that I ever drank was a Big Red tequila.
Well, this was a red drink, and it was coming out of Preservation Hall, and they could get about half a block down the road in front of my house before it reversed course.
You've seen the machine that goes by early in the mornings and sanitizes the streets, right? Yeah.
I moved to New Orleans, and I was trying to get the power hooked up, power and water. So I go down to the power company, the water company, and there's a line of about 20 people, and it's not moving. The window's closed, right? So I stand there for about an hour. And I go back home and I tell my landlord, "Hey, man, I can't get the power and the water on." He said, "What'd you do?" And I said, "Well, I went down to the company." He just laughed. He said, "What, are you stupid or something?" I said, "No, man, you get $60 cash. You call him on the phone. You hand the guy the $60. He hooks you right up." That's what I did.
Wow.
It's a whole different culture.
Wow.
Only the schmucks go stand in line. The window never opens.
Yeah, you got your thing up. We got a post from Mary Kraft that says Island Churches, Padre Island Baptist Church, will be not conducting Sunday services on the 22nd. The Island Presbyterian Church will not be conducting services at the church, and they will be live streaming on their Facebook page.
I talked to the Baptist Church yesterday.
More.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Island.
On the island?
Yep. Island Methodist Church will not be conducting services on March 22nd or the 29th.
Thank you, Mary.
You know, what they should do there, in my opinion, the Presbyterian Church, they do their sunrise service on Easter out on the beach. You should just do it there. You could space out enough. They do it right at the south end of the seawall, and it's like a interdenominational thing.
I've been there at the end of Whitecap.
Yeah. You could do that, get out there on the beach. Why not, man?
They canceled the fish fries, too, over there.
That's what I heard.
On Fridays.
Good news for the fish.
What?
They have fish fry on Friday over there on the island.
Why?
It's Lent. They're all. This is the season of churches all over the town do fish fries during Lent. I went to a lot of them, especially when I was campaigning. It was a great opportunity to meet people. I always felt guilty about going to a church I didn't belong to, but I had no problem going to their fish fries.
Yeah, exactly. I go to fish fries. Like I'm not Catholic, but I'm all for Fish Friday.
The one on the island, it was a lot of winter Texans, and I think a lot of them are gone. I think a lot of them cleared out.
The Catholic Church open air thing under that.
No, it's that church, but it's in. They got a meeting hall in there where they have it, and they'll pack the place.
Yeah.
The speaking of operating under the a roof cover, I found it interesting the other night when I was coming back from the yacht club. Pamela and I are traveling, on ocean trying to get home, and right about where the Memorial Coliseum was, there is one of those Quonset hut roofs.
That's for basketball.
For basketball.
Yeah. You see those around the.
Was that intentional?
To make it look like the Coliseum.
From the tip of the cap to the
people
memory.
have missed it. It really looks.
I'm using a hunk of bricks from the old Memorial Coliseum for a doorstop in my office right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. I went down there. They had a big pile of them, and so I decided to get a souvenir. So I got a chunk of brick in my office.
Elvis walked by that once.
Yeah.
You know.
But it really looks good, doesn't it? I mean, the median and it's just remarkable. You start with what they have done to the business side, Frost Bank, and on down that.
There's a lot of new construction right in there too.
Incredible looking. It's really beautiful.
I go by there every week, and it's different. A different street is closed every week. It seems like.
Yeah.
Because they're working on it.
We can't gripe about that too much because it's like, well, you're complaining about the streets. Well, they got to work on them at some point.
You know, what's this? It's People Street, right, where you turn in to go to the yacht club?
No, that's Cooper's Alley.
Cooper's Alley. There's still a stop sign up there. There's bollards to your right and bollards to your left, and there's a stop sign.
That's in case the bollards didn't get you.
Bollards to the left of me, bollards to the right.
Here I am.
And the only bait in town.
Stopped in the middle with you. Jane's, and how long has that been? What was the big controversy with Jane's bait stand? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that during
They were trying to move her?
They tried to move it. Yeah. She's got a long-term contract. I went to high school with Jane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Jane
her.
Croson then.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in a long time.
Wasn't that during the Landry's thing?
I'm not sure. I wasn't living here when all that happened.
You weren't?
We could have had a Ferris wheel there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she got a long-term lease in there.
Melody Cooper. Oh, brother.
Yeah.
I tell you, the best rumor Steve Ray, the political consultant, ever started was, there's going to be a hurricane and that Ferris wheel's going to be rolling down Ocean Drive.
That would have been cool. They could charge extra
Make a
for
nice
that.
video in a movie, wouldn't it? Like the Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that ball. Big rock.
Let me see here. Chuck, will you guys be available in any other formats? Chuck, we're working on that. Lots of terms and conditions to reply with. Did you answer him?
That was me.
All right. Terry Gray, Cal Allen Materials is open and serving all your material needs for sand, stabilized sand, select, and sandy loam. You know, I need some of that. Mark McNabb, great to hear your show again. Mark Gottledge, gotta go. Good show this morning. Some people have figured out how to put this on their iPhone. The only problem is if you get a phone call on the way in, it
mutes the show.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah. We will allow you to take your phone calls. We're good with that.
Yeah.
Carl, I was talking to Carl, our expert in things like this, and he said there's some you can pay to be able to have your phone not to turn off or whatever when it goes dark and kicks off the music. Sort of like when you want to play YouTube in the background, but if you go to a different app, it cuts it off. Well, he said there's ways to get around that.
Yeah.
Pusley texted one of you guys.
Me.
How do you?
He was asking where it was because this Facebook site was. You put it to sleep for a while because I was on Blake. I can't find it.
Yeah, the radio station we were on was having a problem with the Facebook fan site, so we turned it off.
About 7 years ago, wasn't it? It was a long time ago.
If you scroll back in the old stuff, you'll see stuff from the radio station back in like 2010.
Yeah, Lago's laying on the couch broadcasting from Florida from spring training on there. So what happens is people didn't know, like, Pusley wanted to know how you get there.
Oh,
so I
see.
said, let's go, because other people didn't know. That's why when we had it on your show first, your personal page, and everybody shared it, it was like, wow.
And there were a couple of people, Stoney Van Way, for instance, I had a great conversation with yesterday. He kept saying, why don't you just make the whole thing public? And the problem is you get trolls that will set.
And there's I think there was, I'm not sure what the number is now, there was a 5,000 person limit to the number of people you could have as friends on a personal page. There wasn't a limit on one of these, I call them fan pages.
Yeah. This one's easier because it allows you to do more stuff.
Yeah.
And you can track things.
You got a lot of better metrics and the like.
Well, as I was typing what we are going to do today for the Thursday edition of Lago in the Morning with Blake and Tyler, I was telling everybody that Dale Rankin, the owner, publisher of the Island Moon, would be back with us. And I was so excited when I talked to Dale earlier in the week because we had come to the same conclusion about the gap in local information.
There's a need for a local voice.
Yeah. And after I talked to Dale, my hurricane advisory warning went. I wanted to go on the air immediately to start talking about that.
Yeah.
And I was talking about your unique understanding of local information and being a terrific writer, local citizen. He's our neighbor. He lives here. He gets it, and his explanations are first class, concise, interesting, informative. You can pick up an Island Moon, get it at most Stripe stores. Take a look at the headlines and stories. They're all about us, where we live, work, and play. And to take a look at the byline, just about everything written by Dale. And for those of you in my neighborhood, if your garbage day is today, you can pick up your free copy of the Island Moon at Town & Country, thanks to Dotson Lewis. And according to Grammarly, my text is appreciative, friendly, and informative.
Well,
thank you, Miss Brooks and Miss Hart.
I do believe that there is I think there is a demand in this market for a local citywide news voice.
That's your shtick with this.
Yeah, but I don't cover the whole city. I do cover City Hall because it affects the island, but I don't cover Calallen or a lot of downtown stuff. And there's just the caller over the years was that outlet, but I don't think that it is now.
No.
And I think that there is every city needs that. You need some kind of an honest media outlet that people can go to and get information that they can't get anywhere. Everything is local. It's local.
We were reminiscing about there is not a general manager with foresight enough to recognize the opportunity.
Right. Well, you've lost at your newspapers and in your television newsrooms, for the most part, you've lost your institutional knowledge. The old guy that's been there for 30 or 40 years that can remember what year something happened at the at the parade when the fireworks went wrong or something. That's all pretty much gone now.
I told Blake yesterday, I have become the new Bud Lockhart.
Yep. I mean, you look at the closest thing we've got to that is Tom Whitehurst.
No. Joe Gazen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe.
Well, I was thinking newspapers, but Joe's longest running anchor in the country. I mean,
he's been number one the whole time he's been there. He should be in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yep.
And Domingo is the longest running locally produced show in the United States.
And still going.
Mm-hmm.
They did a real smart thing hiring Channel 3 did, hiring Barry. She left the week after I did.
But how lucky were they that the guy who started that's named Domingo, right?
Yeah.
If his name was John, it wouldn't work.
Sunday.
You couldn't have the John show on Sunday, but his name happens to be Sunday, so there you go.
Domingo Pena. You started off the Domingo Pena show.
The story goes that the way Channel 3 got on the air is Domingo disappeared into Mexico with $70,000 in a suitcase and came back with a signed letter from the governor of Tamaulipas, because the way Lyndon would keep, Lyndon Johnson was in the TV business.
Oh, yeah.
KLBJ in Austin.
And they had a rule, an FCC rule, that if you were within, I think it was 250 miles of the border, to put a new station on the air, a VHF station, you had to have a signed release from the corresponding governor in Mexico. That's why you only had Channel 10. You didn't, for years, up until the 60s, I think, you didn't have ABC or NBC, right? So they sent Domingo, so the story goes, that Channel 3, they sent him into Mexico with $70,000, and he came back with a signed letter from the governor, and that's how they got on the air.
I like it.
There's another story that goes with Channel 10 too, but I'm not going to.
Oh, you're not going to tease us, are you?
There are a lot of good Channel 10
Kennedy's
stories.
gone.
It was connected to Box 13. Put it that way.
Yeah. And the Colonel.
Yeah.
Back when Colonel Kennedy and his family ran it, it was almost like a proving ground for talent.
Well, he hired Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
But they Lyndon was involved.
Yeah.
He was involved with a station that I worked at, KWTX in Waco.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow this school teacher became a multi-million-dollar broadcaster because he had sway with the FCC in getting licenses granted. So that's where all this stuff.
And there was
And Lyndon made that possible.
Bobby Baker.
Yeah.
So the story was Bobby Baker showed up down here when they needed somebody to sign off on those ballots. And, Bobby Baker was Lyndon's fixer. He came in the door with a pocket full of $100 bills, and things happened.
God.
When I first got to San Antonio, there were Lyndon stories everywhere. You heard all kinds of great stories.
Well, and this goes into Vietnam because that construction company, K. Knutson, whatever it was.
Brown and Root and Zachary.
LBJ. Yeah. K. BR. LBJ.
I just ran a thing a couple of weeks ago about San Jose Island, and Lyndon.
Did you see the hay bales being lifted out there?
Oh,
St. Joe's?
Yeah, I did. In fact, I ran a picture of the helicopter and that somebody sent me that I wasn't supposed to run, so I didn't put it online.
Well, we put the video up, and we weren't supposed to do that either.
We got
well, there were some non-disclosure agreements signed.
Yeah,
but they only applied to social media, as far as I know. So that's the road I went down. But when you
there is this such thing as First Amendment.
Yeah, and if you can get, the only way to establish the right to publish is to publish, and then sort it out at the courthouse. But but when you take a helicopter and you start flying over the island at under 1,000 feet with a tether, with something at the end of it, the rumor mill is going to go nuts.
People notice.
Right? It's all over the board, man. Well, I knew what it was because I knew it was coming, but you couldn't get out to where they were loading the helicopter. Right. It's private property. And when you got out to San Jose Island, you could see them flying in, but then they were landing kind of over there behind the dunes.
Well, me and Tyler and Oggs, we're parked on the side of the road waiting for the helicopter, and the guy comes out from across the road from us and says, "You're going to have to move." And we're on the shoulder, not blocking the road.
Right. He says people won't be able to turn, and they're going to have to stop. It's like, I'm on the shoulder.
Turn where? There's no there's no turning to the right. But I didn't argue with him. We moved.
Well, San Jose Island, it's owned by the Bass family. And one time I wanted to go out there and do a story on that Shellcrete house that's out there.
Yeah,
they got that runway and everything. So I called a friend of mine in Fort Worth that knows somebody that knew somebody. So I get an email address, and I tell them, I got this little newspaper down here on the island, and I'd sure like to come over and see this Shellcrete house. And I get an email back that says, "We don't know where you got this address, but please lose it and do not contact us again." Not just no, but get the heck out of here and don't come back.
Charlie Zahn has great stories of going over there and meeting with Perry Bass, going fishing
armed
with
guards.
Armed guards.
Yeah.
I mean, not like, semi-auto, but like.
Well, there was a time when I ran a picture of a herd of longhorn cattle out there. When Tony Amos he could go through there, he had permission to go through those gates. There's fences out there that go out into the water. And they said that when they would get up to that fence and go through, that riders on horseback would come out and see what they were up to. But they sent me pictures of a herd of longhorns. There was a lot of them. I could 100 or more. I don't know. There's a lot of longhorn cattle wandering around. I don't know if they're still there since the hurricane went through there. If you go about, I believe it's 6 miles up San Jose Island, is what they call ground zero. That's where the eye of Harvey came in.
Yeah.
And it just cut right through the beach. There's still a big body of water there. That's to this day. That's still, a friend of mine goes up there and does collections on the beach for the Marine Science Center. And I've seen pictures of it. I've flown over it too. You can see it easily from the air.
You would think that one of those airlines would change the route just a little bit, so you could get a more scenic.
Well, you're close enough to Corpus Airport. If you're flying in here, you're already on a pattern.
You could see that when we had the big red tide event several years ago. You could see the red tide from the plane.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
That was scary. It
Yeah,
was
but now when there's a north wind, there's a pattern that'll take you over it.
Huh. I ran a thing last week, this last issue, about 45% of the people who fly out of Corpus drive to San Antonio or Houston instead of flying out of here. Almost half the passengers.
Half, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very often substantially cheaper.
Especially if you got 4 or 5 people in the family and, a couple $100 a ticket. Right now, I haven't looked, but someone was telling me yesterday you can get a Southwest flight round trip anywhere for $100 or so, which I assume you could postpone. You could use that at some point in the future.
Well, that story yesterday on Channel 3, I think, the port is talking about the decrease in refined fuel for not only driving, but the airlines and the cruise industry. So they're experiencing a slowdown too. So that's
and how's that going to affect housing prices around here? Because all these houses on the south side, the developments we're talking about, remember when the city council out there, these guys out and doing fracking, whatever, they can't do it for $20 a barrel.
Well, but Trump bought all that.
He didn't buy
oil.
enough of that supply, though, for the strategic petroleum reserve.
The Saudis dumped on the market.
The lifting cost in the Eagle Ford are what, $42 a barrel, something like that.
Yeah, under 50, and they're screwed.
Yep, and for the record, Southwest has one-way fares starting as low as $49, and one-way fares with their want-to-get-away advance purchase now through 6/17, nothing over $199 each way. So you can get anywhere Southwest flies one way for $199. But I will tell you, I saw a United fare the other day from San Antonio to Denver of $37.
Really?
Each way.
Well, I thought about flying out to L.A. this weekend for the
wait,
for
say
the
that
wedding.
again.
My daughter is in Denver, and I was looking to get her down here. And one-way United from Corpus to Denver, San Antonio to Denver, or Denver to San Antonio. Either way, one way was $37.
Wow.
Seems like it'd be cheaper coming back because you're flying downhill all the way.
Well, you're flying with the jet stream anyway.
Dale Rankin, the owner, operator, publisher of the Isle of Moon, also filling in for our missing comedian this morning, flying downhill. That's good. Isle of Moon is out today. You can pick it up.
A little later this afternoon.
When I leave here, I'm going straight down to the printer. I'll load it up. I'll make my one stop at Brookdale to drop off at the nursing home, and then head out under the bridge in Flower Bluff, and by noon it'll be out on the racks. I meet Dotson at the office, and I give him about 400 papers, and he brings those over to this part of town.
Town and country.
Yeah.
He drops 3 off at my house.
I haven't seen Dotson this week. He may be sheltering in place. I don't know.
I kind of doubt it.
I do too.
Dotson is pretty good about remembering. All
I was going to go help.
I
was going to go. He has a writing class over at Delmar, and I was going to go, and I go 2 or 3 times a semester, and I was going to go this week since I didn't have to go to the wedding, but they canceled it.
Oh, they did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so on airline fares, my daughter Amanda, who is in Denver, her flight from D.C. to Denver was $50 one way, and Ted Mandel saw a Corpus Christi to New York City round trip, $60. But I mean, that's Corona Central.
Let's go to Tampa and see Tom Brady play. I like Tampa.
Did your jaw just hit the ground when you saw that?
I never thought he would leave New England.
I didn't either.
I thought he was negotiating. But he wanted 3 years, and they wouldn't give it to him.
Well, he's 40. He'll be 43 before the season starts.
So?
Yeah,
George Blanda played when he was 46, and he was a smoker.
Well, he's a point shaver, too, so, that'll lengthen your career.
Yeah,
I think most people have forgotten about that point shaving story in George Blanda. He was kicking for the Oilers.
Before that, he was kicking for the Texans before they moved from Dallas to Kansas City. I had a friend that was a bookie up there, and he said he would never throw a game, but he was a quarterback and the kicker, right? So he had plenty of opportunity to let sail one a little wide right when the situation demanded. Said they were giving away tickets to the Cowboys and the Texans in those days because they were competing.
I read that story a long time ago, and I thought, man, that is going to follow his family around for the rest of their lives. A storied career, and all the time that he spent, and then that Kansas City story surfaces, and
well, this guy, his name was Billy Gunter. I can say that now because he's passed away, but he was a bookie up there, and his son was one of the lead prosecutors in Henry Wade's DA's office.
Oh yeah.
So he one on each side of the aisle, and Billy was he had been a bookie up there all through that time. He was my next door neighbor in San Antonio, and one day I was sitting in the robbery. I used to go have coffee in the robbery office at SAPD because those guys knew everything, right? When I was a police reporter, and one day they had somebody had robbed on New Year's Day. They had robbed a armored car truck, got away with $200,000 or $300,000. So the story went. And I'm looking at, they're saying, yeah, we know this guy did it, but we just haven't been able to catch him yet. And I'm looking at the picture, and they go, there's two guys. And they go, but we don't know who this other guy is. And I look at it, holy crap, that's Billy. So I went home and I said, Billy, you got to stop going over to this guy's house, man. This is not good. And so they finally caught the guy. The way they caught him, there's one guy that put it together, and then he hired these two idiots who were students out at UTSA as his bagman and his driver. So they put out the word that they got like $600,000. So these guys, their cut was like $10,000 because he told them he only got 100. And so they ran down to the PD and ratted him out, and everybody went to the slammer, except Billy because he got warned.
Wow. I heard a story about a bookie Tuesday night. I'm not going to go into it, but I think I need to get permission if I'm going to tell the story.
Yeah.
It's cloudy. It is 73, and our high today is going to be near 80. And tomorrow we're supposed to get some rain, and Saturday too. Friday we get the cold front coming in.
It's not going to be as cold as we thought it was going to be. So it's 66 for a low on Saturday morning.
It's late. Spring breaks over.
I love these 60-degree temperatures, and we've got 4 minutes left. Do you want to do a reset? The only thing I think, if you think you have symptoms of the Wuhan flu, the China virus.
Yep. Tyler's got the number. You call. They don't want you to go to the doctor. They don't want you to go to the emergency room because they don't want you infecting other people. So they've got drive-by testing.
You call this number, and they'll screen you. They'll ask you the CDC questions, and if you pass the muster on that, they'll let you go do the drive-by thing. It's over where Memorial Hospital used to be. So call this number if you think you have the symptoms, 361-826-7200, 361-826-7200, and that's for the mobile testing unit, which opens up today. And there's supposedly, according to estimates from the governor last his press conference, they're looking to get at least 10,000 a week the first week, and up to 1 million a week throughout the United States. So that'll spring out the numbers, and of course there'll be more cases because they're testing.
Yeah. Oh, if you sample right, you can get
any answer you want.
Yeah.
That's like the Nielsen and Arbitron ratings.
Or political polling.
Yeah, like 1,500 adults is good enough between
well,
plus or minus.
Nielsen had 400 meters in the smallest market it metered, and in New York City and L.A. it was always just 400. Because they said if you take, it's just a statistical magic. If you get a good sample of 39 people, and your model is right, it's the same as the census. So they say. I had to take statistics in grad school. And the first day they said, if you can get your head around the notion that a proper sample of 39 people done enough times to kick the dings out of the modeling, it's the same as doing a full census. So if you could this is not going to be random, I don't think, because it's going to be people only that have symptoms, right?
Right.
So it's not the general population number.
Well, they did it according to zip codes.
Huh.
The Nielsen ratings, the things they sent to your house, ask you to. That was absolutely the most confusing, horrible thing.
Well, you could buy meters too.
Yeah, because if you were in the media or a disc jockey or TV person, I had one sent to my house.
Really?
Yeah, and you're
supposed to report it.
Well, you could sell it.
No,
I didn't, but you probably had. I know you had somebody that knew how to sell them or copy them.
I used to go down to Dunedin and go through the diaries every time, and you could tell somebody, they paid them $100 to turn those things in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'd see these diaries, and it would say, like KWTX or whatever it is, and then they would just take a line and draw through the whole month. Like they never changed the channel on their television. You know what happened is they got down to the last day, it was time to mail it. They want the $100, so they just randomly fill it out.
Well, they send you $2 now, 2 nice crisp dollar bills, or 3 or whatever it is. But the first question was, are you a member of the media? And I always said no. I watch television.
Yeah.
And the stations I watch are important to me.
Yeah. Not related to you being, not necessarily related to you being in the media.
Exactly. Exactly.
Of course, you probably
meters changed everything. When meters came in, man, it was like I was working at Ken's in San Antonio, and we had like a 41 share and a 38 rating. And in one day, we lost half of it. As soon as they flipped those meters on, those diaries were so inaccurate that half of our audience wasn't even there.
Well, that gun, that radar gun that was supposed to tell what your radio was set on, those were pretty seismic shifting.
They had one of those at, remember the name of the place, it was in West Palm. And they had a Jimmy Buffett concert there, and they sat there. It's the first one I ever saw. Everybody that drove by, they could see what radio station they were listening to as they drove into that concert.
Wow.
And so the next time they did a show, they knew exactly where to go buy spots.
Well, it's 9 o'clock. It's time for us to roll up our prayer rugs.
Yes, it is. Are you going to be back tomorrow, Dale?
I don't know. I can be, I guess.
Come on back.
Bring some papers.
Absolutely. We'll talk
I'll
to you
have the papers.
And we will see you tomorrow.